From the TFNB Your Bank for Life studio. Now, it's time for the Smoak Show. Presented by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance. We are Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, your insurance provider built by Texans for Texans. And we've been protecting families in our great state since 1952. TFNB, your bank for life, serving Central Texans since 1889. It's time for the Smoak Show on 365 Sports with David Craig and Craig Smoak.
And here we go on this Wednesday afternoon. Good afternoon, the Smoak Show, 365 Sports. I'm David Craig. He is Craig Smoak, and Rez Michelangelo Flores and Garrett Ross running the mothership. We appreciate them. Today, we do have a Nebraska helmet. On occasion, we put it up there. That's, everyone knows, my favorite program. Matt Rule will join us today later in the show at around 5:45. We'll have Trey Wallace, and we'll also today have Mike Shodrin on many things from college coach contracts and more. He'll join us today at 3:45 or so. Craig Smoak, we have breaking news off the top.
Somewhat expected news, and not the biggest breaking news for fans across the country, but certainly good news for Texas Tech fans as Thomas Castellanos has officially committed to Tech to play his fifth season. Obviously, the eligibility story here lately has opened some things up, and that included for Castellanos. And so after a lot of speculation that Lubbock could be his destination, to go and pad and add some depth and experience to Joey McGuire and company's quarterback room. He did tell Pete Thamel today that he is officially committed to Tech. So the former Florida State and Boston College and UCF.
I always forget about the UCF.
And now Texas Tech quarterback, is now also a Texas Tech quarterback. So 32-game starter, 6,400 plus yards, 48 TDs over 4 years, 24 rushing touchdowns. And he got a temporary restraining order by a Kentucky judge last week, so that allowed him to play this fifth college season. And I said on Twitter, and I think everybody kind of had the same thoughts here, that Castellanos is a good, experienced player. I don't think it increases or affects your national championship odds of winning or anything like that, but I do think he's a guy that's played a lot of football and can make some plays from time to time. And I saw him just getting poo-pooed all over by maybe it was Florida State fans, maybe it was just people who don't like him playing another year or whatever, but for what he's being signed to do, which is to primarily back up Will Hammond and start in a pinch if he needs to, I don't know how Kirk Francis feels about all this, but I think it's a solid pickup for the Red Raiders.
Yeah, no, it is. He makes them better. Now, especially if they need him to play, doesn't mean because of if Will Hammond just goes about his business and takes care of business and they keep winning. But if they do need him, and maybe at times they're able to, in some games, be able to get him some snaps. Not sure exactly the conversations between Joey McGuire and Leftwich, among others, but it makes their roster better at the quarterback position. But yeah, you got on again that Francis. We hear about NFL players coming back and how do you sit there and like tell somebody, hey, you've been with us since January, you've been through all the offseason, strength, conditioning, spring, etc., fall, but we have a guy that's coming in. And that's another topic, but in this particular case, Castellanos is a part of their roster.
Yeah, I don't know what that says or what that means for Kirk Francis exactly. I'm not sure how he feels about it because he went from what looked like it was as the number 2 spot to probably number 3 based on this, I would assume. So, yeah, the one thing we do know is they're probably going to need at least 2, if not all 3 of those guys because the recent history in Lubbock says that you're going to need more than one starting quarterback over the course of an entire season, and I think that's a lot of college football. You're very lucky if your guy gets to play every single game, all 12 of the regular season. So good to have insurance, good to have experience, good to have a solid room, and I think that's what Texas Tech has.
Here's Kim Coulter, who's one of the Tech fans, among others, and he's not the only one I've seen say this about, like even yesterday with the Mulkey story about the girl from Ukraine compared to the girl from Russia. Who cares about their feelings? Well, I mean, that all depends. Kim didn't say that specifically, but who does care about the feelings of a third-team quarterback? I disagree. He has been with them since he transferred in Tulsa, and he was going to be most likely, he thought, was going to be maybe the third-team guy anyway, depending on Will Hammond's health and when he's going to come back and Sorsby plays. But I still think you still wonder. And by the way, he knows if you're not good enough, wherever you are on the depth chart, if the guy's ahead of you better, then he's better.
Have we always just been this cold-hearted about every single thing? And I'm not even highlighting that specifically, but yeah, I mean, I'm not too worried about Kirk Francis's feelings ever. I just thought I would mention that, I wonder how he feels. I'm saying that as a question to myself because I'm curious. And I think he's a guy who pledged to you just like Castellanos, and if you want to just treat him like dirt because obviously you got a better guy now, then that's fine. I think that's just kind of, I don't know. I think to dwell on that part of it is kind of odd. But yeah, I understand the point being made, and I guess not too many people care other than Kirk Francis. So nothing for you to worry about, I suppose.
All right, so again, Thomas Castellanos is now a part of Texas Tech. It does make them better. It makes their quarterback room better. It is also a player that maybe gets, like I said, extra snaps because if they have a chance to win games and separate, he'll get some snaps. And he's a good player. He's not Will Hammond. He's not whatever other options they used to have, but he can. He's played at the high level, this being his 4th team. UCF, what'd you say, Wake Forest?
No.
UCF, Florida State.
Now you got me confused. Boston College.
Boston College, okay.
Yeah.
Now, yesterday, most of the story about the NFL players getting back into college and having a chance to play because of various injunctions, etc. Yesterday, the Big Ten put their foot down, stamped it out. Not going to happen. Today, well, it was late yesterday, the SEC, this is what they had to say following meetings with presidents, chancellors, and athletic directors and more. An SEC institution is not permitted to have an athlete on its roster who has previously declared for the NFL, NBA, or WNBA draft and did not appropriately withdraw, signed a contract with an NFL or other professional football league team, NBA/G League, or WNBA or affiliated team, or been listed on the NFL or other professional football leagues, NBA, G League, WNBA roster. So in the NFL, I think there's like a 90-man roster. They do keep that's changed now because the practice squad is bigger, but it used to be 53. Now it's like 58, whatever the number is. I don't care. But that's why some players who have been in camp, but they weren't on the official 90-man roster, can come back and play with the team if they decide they want to do that. Commissioner authorized here, Craig, to enforce this expectation with penalties against member institutions. They voted 16-0 to enforce this particular ruling from the SEC.
Yeah, I mean, yesterday we talked about how they didn't really have much meat to their statement, and it was true. I mean, it was a very vague statement that didn't say much at all, and it was certainly nothing compared to what the Big Ten put out a little while later. But I also said yesterday that perhaps that's because they didn't want to say too much too quickly and put themselves in a pinch, and you want to make sure you got your T's crossed and your I's dotted, and you don't say the wrong thing or misrepresent your position. And I think they've very clearly stated their position now. I think part of the delay was getting their ducks in a row, because this doesn't just cover football. This also covers other sports as well, like basketball, where it's probably even more of a dumpster fire than football is right now when it comes to eligibility. I mean, hell, it's being taken over by European pros almost is what it feels like at this point, much less guys with extra eligibility. And then there's a whole argument about, well, if the Europeans can do it, why can't these guys? And so I think college basketball is going to be messy as hell by the time we get to it, and trying to figure out who, what, where, when, and why, and all those things. But the SEC covered those bases as well. They also came out today and in a formal vote, voted today to confirm the penalties in the legislation involving banning of NFL players, and there are pretty hefty penalties for head coaches for financial purposes, very heavy penalties, and they voted 15-0. LSU abstaining from the vote here in the last hour. So 15-0 SEC presidents vote to confirm the penalties for NFL returnees and that ban, and LSU sitting that one out. So I think they came out strong after
Abstained
initially,
or
abstained, but I think they came out strong, given that there really wasn't, like I've said a few times, nothing to that original statement. But I think that was just kind of a placeholder. And certainly that is what it ended up being, because they came out just hours later after the show ended, and then even more so today, and have been very strong in their position and very clear that they do not want to see guys returning from the NFL to play. And Sankey's been pretty clear on some of the things that he doesn't like and irks him. It's just a matter of yesterday, what are you going to do about it? And you know what? Give him credit. He and the league have responded, and they've responded strongly, and now we'll see what LSU's response to the response is, because there's still some element of them that feel like, let's fight this some more. And I really want to see them do that, because I want to see Craig Sankey potentially have to suspend Lane Kiffin for half the season if we want to go down okay, are these real penalties or are they not? Well, we're going to find out, because LSU may try to fight this somewhat, but perhaps they see the writing on the wall and they go, this is probably not worth it in the long run, kind of like Tech ultimately did with Sorsby, and they decide to just say, let's focus on what we have. But it's LSU. They're a wild card on any table that you're playing a game on, whatever the game may be. So they're going to do what they want to do, and I'm very curious to see what their response is.
All right, a couple of legal parts of this. Yes, of course there is, is. Ryan Downton says the NCAA is now in contempt of multiple court orders by SEC's other actions. The SEC's actions put the NCAA in contempt of multiple court orders. It's it is cartel-like conduct in NCAA conferences attempt to create their own spur-of-the-moment rules in response to courts enjoining those same rules at the NCAA level. Trey Wallace, by the way, will join us today at just after 4 o'clock.
Well, we're going to find out, Ryan, and Darren and everybody else that came out popping off at how this wasn't doable or wasn't going to be legal or was going to be fought or whatever. Well, Good news for you guys. More clients coming your way because the NCAA and now the SEC and the Big Ten, and it looks like the Big 12 and the ACC will follow suit. They're all making it pretty clear their stance. And I do wonder at some point, like I get you can't restrain free trade and free markets, and like there's all these terms. I don't want to get out of my depth here. But at what point do I look at this and does everybody else go like, so basically the lawyers are telling us like they just can't enforce any rules whatsoever.
Well, here,
like every other company in America can say how they want their employees to act. Like, now I get it. Now there's a big word I said there, employees. So that's the catch I understand. And that's also not the total solution. There's one particular lawyer I see online who every single time a story gets brought up.
You mean this one?
I don't see a name on there.
Darren Heitner.
No, it's another guy.
Okay.
That Darren Heitner's always, whatever the NCAA is, he's anti that, and he's got a client that's already in the fire. And sure enough, who's he representing in that story? Daquan Wright. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Big surprise there. But it's another lawyer who is, his response to everything is they just need a CBA. They need to make him employees. And it sounds good, but it's not that simple. When you're talking about this many schools all over the country and this many athletes. And so, yeah, it'd be great to wave that magic wand. There's also the selfishness of the NCAA that they don't want to wrest whatever control they do have entirely away. But, yeah, there seems to be some lawyers who last night looked like they were licking their chops. And then I saw some other lawyers come out and say they're actually kind of putting on like the menacing face out of like a defense mechanism, because I don't think they really do have, like Darren Heitner got quote tweeted by somebody who was like, this is how a lawyer talks when they actually don't have much of a case to stand on. So we'll see, much like with LSU, like it'll all come out ultimately in these battles. But yeah, I'm sure the lawyers are licking their chops.
Here's Darren Heitner. I print some of these out, and sometimes there's the tweet that Rez does a great job along with Garrett of putting them up. Heitner, who also represents Daquan Wright, the young man who's trying to get back and is already committed to LSU. He's going back to LSU. On the SEC's new guidelines and eligibility of his client, he should be rostered by LSU and be a great contributor for the Tigers. The SEC should heed the court order recently issued by a Louisiana judge. Well, of course he thinks that way.
Yeah,
we've had Darren on, and I've strayed some text every once in a while, direct messages. He's doing what he's wanting to do for the client, but they've been on a pretty good run, and all of a sudden there's like, okay, wait a minute, this is going to make it a little bit more a stickier situation for me and my client.
Well, I mean, just to be clear, Daquan Wright's not going back to LSU. He would
Ole Miss, NFL, LSU.
From Ole Miss, but yeah, I mean, I appreciate what Darren Heitner does, and he's got a role to play in all this, and obviously he's played a very big role, as have other lawyers. I don't like that we know his name. I don't like that we say his name as often as we do, or any other lawyer for that matter. We platform some of them to help us understand some things, but I think that the lawyers are far too involved and far too in depth with all the ongoing things right now. But I understand they kind of have to be, because this is all legal stuff, so you have to have lawyers to help you sort through it all. But he's just a guy who every time the NCAA tries to enforce something, he's on the other side of it. I mean, every single time. And that does read to me like somebody who just wants them to, you better not fight this, because, well, guess what? They're going to fight it. And guess what? They need to fight it. And they should fight it, and they will. And I look forward to seeing what that looks like, because either he gets a big win and even further hell breaks loose, or the NCAA finally gets a much-needed win and some common sense comes into play. Now, is common sense also legal sense? Sometimes, not always, but we'll see. Again, all this stuff's going to get sorted out, because I don't think everybody's just going to go into their separate corners after this past week.
One of the things, the clarification on the NFL players who are trying to go back to college, the ones who would be ineligible, it only applies to players who signed contracts or were on 90-man rosters. Mini camps, which are essentially tryouts for undrafted players, don't count. As far as I can tell, the JMU player, there's another one, would be considered an off-the-couch player, for lack of a better term, and would be eligible. So that's just a little bit clarification on that. Now let's get away from the legal stuff, which I know it's hard to do that.
Well, I wanted to mention the SEC penalties. I mean, that was a pretty big deal that came out from their side as of what they're actually planning to do. But I also would mention that there has been this question pop up over NFL guys going back to college, and then if something were to happen where they try to get back to the NFL, and I saw a tweet earlier, but it was on the way over here and I couldn't grab it. Now I can't find it, unfortunately, but it was from some other person that's either a lawyer or knows a lawyer who said that people who, I guess, attempt to go back to the NFL after coming back to college will be basically like free agents. They're not going to be back in the draft. So, like Daquan Wright, if he does get to play,
I get what you're saying.
Doesn't get to go back in the draft next year.
No, he doesn't go back to where he was, like the Browns or the Dolphins.
No, he doesn't go back to the draft either.
So
he would just be, I guess, a free agent, and that's how that would work. And we'll see how many examples of that we actually get to. But I do think, as much as I said yesterday that the SEC's initial statement was just kind of light, but again, explained why I thought that probably was, gave them the benefit of the doubt, and turns out that was the right thing to do because they did come with a lot of meat on the bone when they finally unveiled all that they've been talking about the last couple of days. And the SEC, part of what they've put out there as far as the punishments potentially, Wilson Alexander from On3, 15-0 in favor of the ban and subsequent penalties with LSU abstaining. Pete Thamel initially reporting that. So have you seen this today?
No,
okay,
no.
Well, then check it out. Violating the new SEC sports rule, pro sports rule, will result in a coach suspension of 50% of contests and a hefty fine. The fine will amount for 50% of that sport's annual operating budget.
Wow.
So that's a lot of money.
Yeah, because the budget.
And the head coach's suspension will include all coaching, all recruiting, and all administrative duties. So there's none of this, I'm suspended, but I'm still out recruiting. I'm suspended, but I'm still wheeling and dealing behind the scenes. It said in the write-up, this is similar to the ghost transfer punishments that were laid out by the NCAA. That's what they're going with. 50% of coach suspension and 50% of contest at a hefty fine. 50% of that sport's annual operating budget will be part of that fine or will be that fine, and the head coach's suspension strips away all of their duties for the time that he's suspended. So that's even one where no matter how many stop signs you blow through in life, and Lord knows Lane Kiffin doesn't stop for many, if any, that's one where even you go, okay, let's slow down and make sure we're reading this correctly and let's understand what we're doing here, because that's actually pretty steep stuff, no matter who you are and no matter how confident you may be. So, that's a big point of the SEC statements and what they've been talking about for the last 24, 48 hours.
Yeah, that's not like you have to pay a nickel, dime, or a quarter. There's some hefty penalties. Now, will they enforce them or even put them on anybody, whether it's LSU, Kiffin, or whoever else that gets in this position? Now, Zach Barnett, who joins us on Fridays from Football Scoop, came up with an idea, and this is about those of you who think you shouldn't care about the feelings of any of the players. And I know where you're coming from, but so Zach Barnett says, okay, let these guys come back. Let them come back, former NFL players, whatever. Let them come back, but you have a camera, because all these franchises and programs love to show everything that they're doing. Have a camera in the coach's office that shows you telling the player who's being replaced that he's no longer needed. Here's Zach Barnett.
To bring guys back and kick players off the team. I mean, we at Football Scoop make a big deal of these scholarship alerts of these guys that were walk-ons or earn scholarships. It's the best thing about college football is that these guys have their efforts rewarded. I think if you want to bring an NFL player back to college football, you have to film and produce a reverse scholarship alert where you have to film yourself bringing in the guy, said, hey, man, you've been with us all year. You've done everything we've asked. You've been with us all summer, all training camp. You've worn the helmet. We don't think you're good enough anymore. You got to go. Bye-bye. You have to film that and put it out and take the hit. If you can do that, you can have the NFL want to be on your team.
Zach, that might be the best thing you've ever said on the podcast. Yes. Clip it. That is outstanding.
All right, that was from
100%
Football
agree.
Scoop.
I don't know if I should be insulted or complimented, but thank you.
That's from Football Scoop and their podcast that they do on occasion with that website. What are your thoughts about it? What's the name of the NFL camp show that shows guys in the office of an NFL coach? Hard Knocks. That would be kind of Hard Knocks moments, which I don't know if you want to do that for the kid who's being let go because some player comes back from the NFL.
I mean, I guess my first thought is, I recognize that dog in the background for sure. Sounded familiar, sounded like Fridays. And I appreciate Zach's response there, and I get where he's coming from. I think the part that I'll just kind of, I don't know if it's disagreement or not, but I understand like how salacious that would be and how juicy reality TV that would be. And I'm sure a lot of people would find it interesting. I think the problem is that not all these guys are coming back and taking spots, though. Not every person is coming and ripping somebody's roster spot away.
Like LSU has open spots, yeah.
Like there's a big to-do today because, and I don't know, a big to-do, it's on Twitter, so everything's like, how angry are you times 1,000 on Twitter? But John McClain, he like blindly shares things he says on Twitter.
He does, yeah.
He doesn't read his replies. So for all you angry Tech fans today, especially that I saw at least earlier, he shared a story that was quoting Joey McGuire incorrectly about Texas Tech and how they would approach adding a player from the NFL. And I guess the way the headline was written, not by John, but the one he shared from Pro Football Talk, made it sound like Joey McGuire's like, yeah, we're going to go do that. And that's not what he said. He's basically responded like every other coach very carefully and been like, well, we're kind of figuring it out. And if there's a need, like we got to be prepared for it. And, like very non-committal to anything, even though the headline said like, they're going to go grab a guy. Well, what he also said is like, if we wanted to go do it, and if we do, we have an extra roster spot. So it's not like these guys are just like every roster's maxed out and they didn't plan for any contingencies. And especially if you believe what's being said about Kiffin planting the seeds for these players to challenge, which is also a report that's out there.
Yeah, put that up, Rez. I thought we were going to.
But if he's doing that, he's not doing that thinking like he has no empty roster spots. So, I mean, I get where Zach's coming from. And, yeah, it would be interesting reality TV for those who love Hard Knocks. I'm not particularly a fan of that stuff. It's just not my deal. But for those that are, I'm sure that would be really interesting. I just don't think that would be the case every time. I think there are teams that just have open scholarships, and you leave them open for, especially in this day and age, weird things that might happen, like NFL guys being available.
Yeah, it's just such a unique time. Yeah. This is, again, the report from CBS Sports that LSU proactively recruited multiple NFL hopefuls to sue the NCAA in hopes of winning the right to return to college football if and when they were cut at training camp. This includes some of the players who ended up in the Louisiana lawsuit, which sources have pointed out wasn't tried in Baton Rouge, by the way. It was tried in the Baton Rouge area. So there we are. There's another thing, accusations that, hey, not only do we want you to come play for us, but here's what we want you to do along the way. And so it's just all over the place. Here is.
Now, do I believe that? Yes, I do.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yes.
Here is Kirby Smart. We do have Mike Chodron coming up at 3:40. This is a couple of minutes with Kirby Smart when asked. Here's a guy that runs, and they haven't won a playoff game in a couple of years. I see that all the time. This is among the alpha football programs who are pretty set. But everybody needs somebody, right? Here's Kirby Smart when asked about whether or not they have looked at the opportunities from NFL rosters.
Are you and your staff evaluating players on NFL rosters who may have gained or are pursuing gaining eligibility? And what do you think of those guys possibly playing college football this season?
No, we're not currently evaluating anybody that's on NFL rosters. And, my thought is just to each his own is my thought. I'm worried about our team, our organization, how we do things. The opportunities presented to the guys on our team is important to me. They've earned those opportunities through an off season, through a summer program, through a really tough fall camp. And you have to decide, each and every person, if that's valuable enough to warrant replacing your players that, have worked with your team with others. Hey, they might be better. So our job is to upgrade and try to get better as much as we can and win games. So some people feel like that gives them an opportunity to be better and doesn't change their culture, then more power to them. But this thing's it's tough. It's not affecting us in terms of timing. It's just, I think it's affecting everyone else. People don't follow the chronological history of this thing of like the years experience where 25 years ago we had a guy play one play in the SEC championship. and he lost an entire year of eligibility at LSU because he played one play, and he was only given 4 years to play, and that one play cost him an entire year. And he didn't get that year back. He didn't get those opportunities back, And so then the advent of the rule went so far as to say, okay, we're going to give you 4 games plus 4 years. And some people during that time lost out on a chance to get that because the rule came into place at a time when they had missed the opportunity to play in those 4 games. I didn't get afforded that opportunity when you play 4 games. Back when we did redshirt was one play, and that was it. Then they came in and said, okay, you can have postseason be exempt. And there were people that missed out on those postseason exemptions. They didn't get a part to be those postseason exemptions, SEC championship, bowl games. But all those rules came about because they were needed, because rosters were dwindling, people were transferring, people were not playing in bowl games, so they made them exempt and they changed them. But it affected different people each time they changed those rules. And this is a better rule. 5 for 5 is a better rule. So you can play as much or as little, and you get 5 years. So it's affecting different people in different ways.
Kirby Smart, Georgia head football coach. Of course, his roster pretty locked, but loaded. But that doesn't mean he doesn't have weaknesses in certain areas. But I just sometimes, and I believe him. That doesn't mean that Kirby Smart is not looking around for talent. But he basically said, no, we aren't. But for some, to each his own.
Yeah, that's what he said, and I believe him when he says that. I think if there's somebody that made sense for them, they'd probably pursue it, but clearly there's not that person right now, and I don't know how much scouting you're doing of a guy who may or may not get cut or who even would be feasible right now for them of the dozen-plus guys. Yeah, I don't know. I'd be glad as a Georgia fan to hear that answer and not just be involved in this nonsense if it was me. So, yeah, we'll see if he changes his mind for some reason, but it doesn't certainly sound like it will happen in the next week and a half. And next year, this shouldn't be an issue. We say that, and then who the hell knows what new lawsuit somebody will come up with to say, kind of like he pointed out, like as he's sitting there saying it, I'm sitting here thinking, yeah, sounds like life's not fair and things change. And, well, the guys who only got to play in 4 games now, are they going to sue because they, so he just gave like a bunch of examples of where there could have been a lot of other lawsuits over eligibility and things like that. We're dealing with this particular one right now, and I do think it's unique in that it's this 2022 class. I'll be really excited by the end of this week, hopefully, to not talk about it any further and just lock in on the games and the season itself. But it's obviously been a really big deal, and it's affected some teams more than others. So he's had to answer a question about it. It sounds like he's gone about his business, and LSU's had to run around calling lawyers and figuring out all of their options. So, yeah, people have been affected differently by it. One SEC school is just kind of going out about their business and looks to be pretty damn good this year. Another SEC school is going about their business, and they look to be pretty damn good, but you also wonder how much all of this stuff around them is going to catch up or play a role or affect maybe this upcoming season. But that's what you signed up for when you hired Lane Kiffin. So others dealing with it as well. Yeah, like he said, everybody handles it differently.
So that's Kirby Smart. And to close it out with this is from Justin Ferguson. He covers Auburn. It's the Auburn Observer. And this is a picture to kind of put everything in perspective. I thought this was pretty cool. The image of a guy looking at, well, there's something, nothing. And that's kind of, in a way, really where we are. In many ways, some people feel like they have it under control. Some people like, my God. And I sent a text to Lance Leipold yesterday evening, just checking in on him. Do that just to say, hey, what a time. And he's like, yeah, this is something else, but it's reality, so we have to figure it out. And we will.
Yeah, I'm just getting really sick of, and I think a lot of people are, just the constant I mean, I understand it during the off season because there's a lot of spare air to go around. But I just hate when it infringes on the season, which it's not quite doing. And I think once games kick off on Saturday, starting off with Ireland and TC North Carolina, all of this will feel like it happened a year ago, even though it'll still be ongoing in the backdrop, depending on how LSU wants to respond to some of this stuff and how others respond to what the conferences have laid out. But yeah, I mean, they're certainly getting their fair share of newsy off the field items going as much of a frenzy as they possibly could the days before the season starts. So hopefully they can turn a page and have more of the focus be on the field, and it will be, because that's what most people are interested in. But I'm just getting really sick and tired of, like, for the fourth year in a row going, what do you think of all this chaos? And it is what it is. It's a sport that is trying to figure itself out, and it tied itself up in knots trying to not do certain things for years, and now they're trying to untangle all the knots, and it can get really complicated, and some knots are way more difficult than you probably imagined they would be, and then sometimes you unravel one and you realize, oh, there was one I didn't even realize was there. Oh, God, that's the biggest one yet. And so that's what's going on, and it sucks unless you're a lawyer or you really love the legal stuff. Or you just love messiness. If in that case, this has been an incredible 4 years. But for everybody else, I look forward to hearing Kirby Smart after his first game talking about what they did well and less about what Lane Kiffin or anybody else might be doing. But I know that's not going to go away entirely.
To wrap it up, one more note. This is from Sarah Barshop from asking Sean McVay. This is not video. It's just a quote. ESPN's Sarah Barshop asked Sean McVay, LA Rams football coach, about players in NFL camps going back to college, and he said, I feel like I took a freaking gummy. It means he's had some. That's fine. But that also, it's like...
Of course it's fine. He's a grown man. He can do what he wants to.
Like, I take him. I take him at night. I get that. I take him, which you get that kind of... It depends on what you're taking. But you just like either you get cooled down or you relax or you go to sleep, whatever, or you get a little bit of a... Let's get focused. So there he is. That's Sean McVay.
I don't think he's doing any of that. I think he's more of getting the high of, like, what day is it and what planet am I on? I think is more what he's talking about here. Not so much I'm going to go get some rest, because that's far from what the news is that he's talking about. So, I think he took a really strong gummy, and he feels like he's in a different world right now and hearing all of this nonsense about players going back to college. And I think that's probably how a lot of people feel. He encapsulates it really well in a fun way. And, it is what it is. And hopefully some of these rules the conferences are trying to outline will be effective. And if not, then more good news for the lawyers.
The business behind college football, Mike Shodrin. He also is the one who authored the book Agent Confidential. He'll join us in the next segment. Also, Trey Wallace at 4. And as he said one time to me on Twitter, maybe even 3 to 5 days ago, this and this and this and this in college football, or as we call it, a Wednesday. And he'll join us today at 4 o'clock, and then also Matt Rull, Nebraska, at around 4:45. Craig and David Smoak. This is 365 Sports. Marco's Pizza. Pizza lovers get it. Marco's Pizza, 5 locations in the Waco area. And it's online, marcos.com. I could go down and I bet, in fact, I'm going to look this up as I'm doing this spot with Marcos. My favorite pizza is the pepperoni and Italian sausage Magnifico. On the front, any specialty pizza, $3 off. You could unlock $5 off your order with a New York style pizza, $13.99. The extra large, you could order that right now too. So they have every day on their site specials that they are promoting. And then on top of that, let me see what the next one might be. Sometimes, here it is. 1 topping pizzas, $8.99 each. Order now. No restrictions. This is every day, some of the specials that I'm giving you. They also have wings, sandwiches, salads, and more. Wings the way you want them. Sloppy. I can't do that because of contacts. I would just not be able to, I couldn't take them out, and I wouldn't be able to put them back in, whatever. So they have wings, or you want them dry, etc. They do that too with different seasonings on it. Mike's a great businessman. Marco's Pizza, fastest growing pizza brand in America. The large pepperoni Magnifico is $12.99. Marcos.com. Pizza lovers get it.
Ray Broker is your Lennox Premier dealer. Right now, qualified buyers can make no payments and get no interest financing for 12 months on a new Lennox home comfort system. Conditions apply. Call Ray Broker Air Conditioning and Heating Specialists for details and a free estimate.
Make this the summer event at Allen Samuels in Waco. Drive a 2026 Ram 1500 Limited Crew Cab with your choice. 0% for 36 months or 25% off MSRP. See why it was named to Car and Driver's Best 10 Trucks and SUVs list. And it comes with America's best truck powertrain warranty, 10 years, 100,000 miles.
Come by, let's be friends.
Bold are the adventurous. Determined are the leaders. Faithful are the healers. At Baylor, you'll find your calling, your people, and your purpose. Dare to be you, indeed.
It's time to compete against yourself, finding too many excuses not to work out combined with bad eating habits, and Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness can help reach inside your competitive soul. Discipline, getting results you've only dreamed about, personal training, group exercise classes, and even a tanning bed, world-class tennis facility, and pickleball courts and lessons available. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness, spacious, clean workout rooms, free weights, state-of-the-art technology, weight training equipment, and no intimidation. It's time for you to react today, not tomorrow, at Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
Serving Central Texas since 1889, TFNB Your Bank for Life takes pride in being more than a bank. TFNB, we remain committed to these principles. If you value them too, come join us. TFNB, your bank for life.
This 3 o'clock hour is brought to you by QC Kinetics. Feel better, move better, live better with regenerative medicine using your body's own healing abilities for natural pain relief. No surgery, no drugs, no downtime. With locations in Dallas and Houston at QCkinetics.com. It's time for the Smoke Show on 365 Sports with Craig Smoak and David Craig.
All right, here we go, this 3 o'clock hour. Thanks for your time today. And for all of the sponsors who are a part of us, you see someone in the background. There's TFNB, Bank for Life, also Baylor Scott & White, Southwest Sports Medicine, Petty Clinic, Men's Healthcare. We're now joined by Mike Shodron. He's an analyst and author and also entrepreneur. He joins us, and I mean his career doing what he does. He's been on podcasts all over the country. He's written that book. He's been on with us, and he's on with us yet again. Mike, thank you very much for your time. I want to start, even though it's been about a week, what was your take on the Brent Venables contract? Because you do a lot of that with buyouts and more. What was your take on OU and Brent Venables?
So I thought it was really, and good afternoon, guys. Really good to see Craig, David again and be with you again. So, excited to be here. Regarding the Venables contract, I guess the thing that really surprised me, guys, was the timing of it all. I put out a podcast that just said, okay, so $10.5 million. Okay, that's kind of the going rate in the SEC maybe. But why now? Mm-hmm. That's what really was just very confusing to me as to why now. Why not wait until November? I mean, I compared it to the Kalen DeBoer contract extension at Alabama, where he got $70 million. But Penn State and Michigan were talking to Jimmy Sexton. They had a little bit of leverage. The only school that's got Venables on speed dial is Clemson. And I don't think it's as good a job as Oklahoma. So the timing was just really odd to me.
All right, what are your thoughts as well before we get into some like those seats that are warmer, hotter than others, et cetera, and the buyouts of them in all the various conferences? With what's happening now with what LSU's done, because they're the one front and center, former players now being a part of college football, it looks like the conferences are trying to say enough is enough and close the gate. Your thoughts, Mike?
Well, I was just really interested that, the Big Ten showed some leadership right out of the gate. So I give them a lot of credit for that. I thought the SEC's initial press release was weak at best. Craig, you said a little bit earlier, it would have made some sense maybe if they said, hey, you know what, we need to get the lawyers together and kind of evaluate this. But they put out that weak statement with Protect College Sports Act in it. And I just thought it was just really weak. And then now you've got all the presidents except the LSU one out there, voting against it and very severe penalties for it. I'm guessing the LSU president didn't get approval from his boss Lane Kiffin to vote for that particular SEC amendment.
Yeah, Mike, and I know I see a lot of I guess expectation now is that perhaps LSU will cite collusion or somebody will and say all these conferences came together. And my counter argument would be like, no, I think they all just think this sucks and they're all coming out because it's time to come out and say it. And they didn't have to call each other and say, hey, Tony, hey, no, I think they all just did it on their own because they don't like this. So they didn't need to consult with each other.
No, absolutely. They don't like this. And, and the thing that I keep hearing from a lot of my followers and in conversations is, the general public feels like that it should be a one-way street from college to pro. And, you mentioned G League basketball earlier. I mean, there's the European players out there. I think it's just a mess. And, billable hours are always going to win. And there will be billable hours from attorneys through all of this. But I am glad that at least the SEC and the Big Ten sort of took a big stake here and to do the right thing with this. So we'll see what happens. But it ain't anywhere near over, you guys.
Yeah, you just wonder. We've said this before. You just wish it would be because here we are on the verge of the first games of the year, the weekend of games, and it seems like we've been discussing legal issues now for 5 years, if not 5 consecutive months, if not longer than that as well. All right, so let's start with, I'm going to pick a Power 4 conference, and you tell me, I know you're doing a series about the buyout factor, or it's called Buyout Island. Let's start, if it's okay, with the Big 12 and your thoughts and analysis there.
So the Big 12, I did a special edition of the Buyout Island Index. It's not really a hot seat. It's really looking at the pressure coaches are under. So I put out a top 4 list earlier today in the Big 12, and the 4 coaches that I believe are under the most pressure in the Big 12, starting with Scott Frost. Now, Scott Frost is not going to get fired, but if you look at it, they didn't have a winning record last year. The 2 previous years before he got there, they didn't have a winning record. So I just think the honeymoon period is coming close to being over. So at number 4, I had Scott Frost in the Big 12.
Yeah, he's intriguing, but I don't. Do they have other options if he doesn't work out? And I think they're going to give him some time, right?
Yeah. Oh, I think so too. I mean, this is not an issue of who's going to get fired next. It's really kind of where the pressure is the most. And I feel like that there is a lot of pressure there. One thing that I looked at on this Buyout Island Index too is the contract issues. So in the case of Scott Frost, they owe him 75% of the leftover contract. He's not going to get fired. It's just that the pressure is on him very much. Speaking of that, number 3, I have Scott Satterfield at Cincinnati. They have improved their record every year under him, but last year starting off 7-2 and then just limping home, really badly to finish 7-6. I think there's a lot of pressure there. And if you also look at his buyout is only $5 million with mitigation. That's a different conversation than, say, Colorado, which we'll talk about in a minute, where it's $26 million with no offset from Dion. So that's what I'm trying to do is look at everything, including the financials.
Yeah, and I would add, too, the Sorsby factor, we don't know what that's going to continue to look like if they continue digging into Cincinnati. They may get off scot-free and get a free ticket to move on, or maybe not. But either way, yeah, it's doable. It's not the most egregious buyout. Cincinnati could swing it if they really want to make a change.
Yeah, absolutely. Number 2, I had Coach Prime out of Colorado. I mean, last year 3-9, 1-8 in the Big 12. He still gets the attention. He still brings the energy. But the spotlight works both ways. The celebrity works, but pretty soon they're going to have to win some ball games there, or he's going to be looking at a way out of Boulder. And his buyout is $26.6 million if he's fired before December 31st of this year. Now, that's not if he left for an NFL job. That's just if they send him on their way. But comparing that to Scott Satterfield's, it's a whole lot different decision, $26 million versus $5 million.
Yeah, Dion's a curious one. I mean, the Heisman Trophy is a really good thing to have won with Travis Hunter, because if you take that away, which you can't hey, if you take all their wins away, they're not that good. But
right.
That is basically the calling card right now, is that Travis Hunter won a Heisman Trophy, and beyond that, a really pretty nice first season, but not a lot else to show for it. Yeah.
No doubt about it. And then number one in your backyard, Dave Aranda at Baylor. 5-7. He's 36-37. 3 out of 4 of the last years have been losing seasons. So, Baylor, they're private, so we don't have access to their contract. So I won't speculate on what the buyout might be. But, pretty soon Baylor's going to need to see some wins. And I think Aranda's under a whole lot of pressure. That being said, and I don't pick games, but I like Baylor's chance against the Auburn Tigers in Atlanta.
Oh, really? Well, that's bad news for everybody looking forward to a new start in Auburn, Alabama, potentially.
And look, let's be transparent here. Again, I don't really pick games, but I did graduate from the other school in Alabama.
Gotcha.
So, my two favorite teams are Alabama and whoever's.
Mike, shame on you for admitting
no,
that. Good for you, man.
I'm transparent.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
No, I think with Aranda, the buyout it's a non-factor, I feel like, at this point, because it's enough time has passed, but also they would have eaten that buyout last year and they just couldn't because of the AD change. So I think anybody who's not mentioning Dave Aranda at the hottest seat, not just in the Big 12, but in the entire country, I think's missing the plot. So I'm right there with you.
Exactly. I've been doing for a couple of weeks, just a national buyout island index, and Aranda has been on it several times. I mean, right now it's still subjective. It'll get really interesting, late September going into October. But certainly his name pops up a whole lot. Although I had TCU's opponent in Ireland as number one on my last week's national one, Bill Belichick. So we'll see what happens in Chapel Hill. But there's a dumpster fire over there, so it's going to be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, no, there very much is, and I've kind of seen some of the money stuff, but that's gotten so bad that it's almost like I think they'd be willing to eat as much as they possibly could just to change the scenery a little bit. So who else do you have nationally? I would imagine is Mike Norvell on there somewhere.
Mike Norvell has been number 1 or number 2 on pretty much everything that I've had. I mean, going 2-12 last year in Florida State. I mean, the pressure is very, very high. I think he likely will be one of the. I don't predict who's fired, but I think that Norvell will probably be one of the first ones to go unless they really show marked improvement. But it's a challenge in Florida State, so certainly he's very high up there. Looking in the SEC, I have Shane Beamer in South Carolina. I think is under an extraordinarily high amount of pressure. There's a lot of money and expectations there, so I think Shane Beamer is a name that's very, very high. And then you got to go out and look on the West Coast with Lincoln Riley. I think you've got to, they need a blockbuster out in USC, and he hadn't delivered it. So I think that's a name that's very high on the list also.
Yeah, he had the opening year with Caleb Williams, and that helped. But then it's been kind of settling, and they're not paying him that kind of money. Plus,
he's just kind of not trying to schedule Notre Dame anymore, and he's just kind of when he's winning, it's fun. As an Oklahoma fan, I can say this, but there's also times when you're not doing everything, and you're kind of I don't really like this. You know what I mean? I don't know if that makes sense, but that's kind of how he is.
It makes perfect sense, and a name that not a lot of people are talking about. But Josh Heupel in Tennessee, I think, is under an extraordinary amount of pressure. And if you look at Tennessee's schedule, it is an extraordinarily challenging schedule. They've got Texas, they've got LSU, they've got Alabama. I mean, they could be 9-3, but they could be 6-6 really easily. So really are high expectations. You're starting a freshman quarterback, so Heupel's a name to keep an eye on.
Yeah, I feel like the freshman quarterback, that'll give him some grace. And I would say.
And they just got a commitment, I think, from somebody, too, that's highly ranked. And you wonder if that doesn't at least connect in some ways, too.
Yeah, I would say he's like a watch list type of guy where if things do go south this year, then you start like the monitoring of like, okay, well, next year better be good. But if he's sturdy enough this year, I think he's pretty locked in. But I mean, it's Tennessee, so they want results, man. They want results.
Right, exactly. I mean, it's about 100 miles down the road from me, so I get it in bright orange pretty regularly around here. One of my sons went to school there, so
there's a lot of them, man. There's a lot of them, and they are very loud.
Yes,
very
they
passionate.
are indeed.
So
yes, for sure.
You've been to most of the SEC stadiums? Have you been at most of them, Mike?
Yeah, I've been to pretty much all of them. I have not been to the Swamp, and I have not been to Missouri. But I think I've been to every other one. I went to an Aggie game a couple of years ago, and my son's company had a suite. It was just really nice. I'm talking to the guy at the door, and I said, wow, this is pretty opulent. He goes, no, where you want to be is upstairs. The Founders Club suites, $10 million a year. So, and there's a waiting list. So that just really showed me how much money the Aggies had. We've been talking about that in the top 20 that I've had of the best funded programs out there. So, but I have been to most of them.
Did you feel the stadium sway when you were at Kyle Field? Because there was, they had built it to where, because all the great engineers that I was there. The last time I was actually there was 2011 when they played Baylor at Kyle Field. And I mean, it does. It was like you're on sand.
It absolutely swayed there. And, being just a neutral observer, I was trying to figure out all of these cheers and arm lockings and all of that stuff. And I never did figure it out. But just what a great atmosphere. I mean, the Aggies are a great atmosphere. LSU on a Saturday night, guys, just hard to beat. I mean, just fabulous environment. And, UT is great. I mean, there's just a lot of really great venues in the Southeastern Conference. It's just so much fun.
All right, Craig, go. You got the book. We have the book. We have a copy of the book. It's right there. I don't spend a lot of time downstairs. I have a split level with it's a living room area, but I do have your book right there, and I'll just pick it up and read a few pages. I'm not one that reads a lot unless it's on the internet from getting ready for stories, but I did. You've done a great job. What's been the feedback for you?
So the feedback has been really interesting, especially as we've gotten near to football season. But the feedback has been that it's just an easy read for fans to pull the curtain back on what's really happening behind the scenes of the game we all love. I'm not out there to explain why it's bad or why it's good. I'm just out there to explain more about the business of college football. So the feedback has been really amazing. And here in just the last few weeks, my email and my text are pretty full for places wanting to talk to me. So it's been great fun and seeing what's happening with it.
Hey, Mike, give me the Big 12 in order again. I'm just going to jot it down and revisit it. I know Aranda's at 1.
So, Aranda was 1, Dion 2, Scott Satterfield 3, and then Scott Frost at 4. I almost put Lance Leopold in there, but I feel like he took over just such a difficult situation. He probably gets a little bit more time from there. So I did leave him off the list, but I did consider him.
Well, I think you got the right scent, because I do think that's something that could be happening sooner rather than later. I'm kind of with you, not like on it's necessarily this year, but I do think he's in that territory where he better start winning some games, is what I'm trying to say, or he's going to be a no doubter on that list.
It's almost like he won too early, like he won. He won so quick. Yeah.
He took over. It's unfortunate because he took over just such a terrible situation.
The worst.
And, one early and then, but I think, what was he, 5 and 7, I think the last 2 years. So I think they just need to see more, but that's a tough job.
Mm-hmm. Hey man, congratulations on you're getting a lot of exposure, and hopefully we're a part of that, and we are a part of it. So thank you very much. Stay in touch, Mike, and good luck with the Buyout Island that you're doing the series with various college conferences in America. Thank you.
Always a pleasure, you guys. Thank you very much for having me.
Mike Shodron, business behind college football, the main core of what he does, and that includes the buyouts, et cetera, of what he can find out with various ways of contacting people and getting information.
Yeah, except for the private schools.
Yep.
They are still they lock down the details.
I was going to ask him this, and I've asked this. I've tried to get I wonder if at the end of last year, which we know would have been it for Dave Aranda, except for the AD situation with Mac, I wonder you're staying another year. Linda Livingstone put out the letter. If that changed anything in the language of his contract for this year as far as a buyout.
Well, if they're smart, they would have had the buyout lowered as an agreement for him to return.
Yep.
If they were smart. Now, there's a lot of smart lawyers and business people over there, so maybe they did, maybe not. Maybe that's a bridge too far, given that you're basically on a one-year deal. But, yeah, I definitely think he's number one on the Big 12 list without a shadow of a doubt. I know he's got Dion and Satterfield and Frost. I think Dion's just so unique that it's hard to put him in the same packaging as other coaches because he has that aura factor that, like, makes up for a lack of wins in some ways. And also he brings an attention that Colorado seems to, as of right now, felt like is a pretty worthy trade-off sometimes for actually winning games. Now, I do think this is a very important year just for Dion and his vision of Colorado football to, like, look like something and to look like it's heading in a real direction and that they're building, because we're pretty far down the road now. Like, you know, and Travis Hunter's not rolling back in that door, but maybe Julian Lewis is the next Travis Hunter. Maybe he's your next Heisman winner. But, like, yeah, we need to see some signs of that, but there is a cult of personality there that is very unique. So, yeah, I would think Satterfield's probably, like, the more realistic number two because he doesn't have that Dion protection. But I don't know. I think Satterfield is just a really hard guy to call this year, Cincinnati. They're just – I mean, I don't say this as as a knock on them, but they are kind of an afterthought in the Big 12 race and certainly nationally. So you don't have high expectations, but you do have the expectations.
The last time they were like that, they ended up having a pretty good year.
Yeah, but you do have expectations. And then again, like, you lost Brendan Sorsby. So, I mean, do you expect them to be better as a result of that? Like J.C. French to be better than him? But you know, at the same time, he also wasn't a world beater either. He wasn't like, to be clear about Brendan Sorsby, he was very good, but it wasn't like he was just sign him up for the Heisman if he goes to a better school. So I don't know, like, boots on the ground, what their thoughts are outside of maybe just making a bowl game. But I think that's kind of the area that they're in.
I think there's about 6 schools in the Big 12 in that 5-7, 7-5 range, and it just all depends. You win a couple of games, close games, and you have a chance to get yourself in. When we come back, Trey Wallace, always busy. And this is a Wednesday, as he says, when it comes to college football. Trey Wallace is next. This is 365 Sports. So Alan Samuels going through their Make It the Summer Sales event. I spoke on the phone earlier today. Ted Teague called me. There's an event that he wanted to know if I could go to, but I have a high school football broadcast, so I can't. But just always involved, very much heavily involved in what the community's doing, and also with foundations and more, giving back. And yes, their car dealership is locked and loaded too with Make This the Summer event. If you want the best in SUVs, they have it. Cherokee, Grand Cherokee, and also the Wagoneer when it comes to Jeep. Every Ram truck you could imagine. Some of them in the pre-owned inventory that you could get a different price for how many miles is on a truck. But, man, that baby is, I don't know what it is about when I'm on the highway, and I go pretty fast, but when you see a Ram truck coming up behind you, yeah, you probably need to be smart and get over if you can. And then on top of that, the way they have their pre-owned inventory that is loaded with other brands that they normally don't carry, but really good cars with incentives and more based on the mileage. It's Alan Samuels, Ted Teague, General Manager and CEO. David Gray runs the sales department on Loop 340 and east of 84 in Waco.
Pitched in the major leagues for 24 years. And let me tell you, I can feel it in my joints. Shoulders, elbows, and knees. Trust me, pain doesn't retire when you do. I tried everything to get rid of the pain. Nothing worked until QC Kinetics.
Baseball legend Roger Clemens and other patients are getting lasting relief with QC Kinetics regenerative treatments. No surgery.
I trust QC Kinetics. You should too. Let's commit to getting rid of all the pain.
Schedule your free consultation today. QC Kinetics. Better starts here.
With over 25 years of excellence in IT, Carrion Solutions is your trusted technology partner. From managed IT services to cutting-edge cybersecurity, our expert team delivers tailored solutions that drive success. Our portfolio includes products such as Veeam, Bitdefender, Microsoft, Cisco, and Fortinet. Call David Carrion and his team of experts. Call 888-522-2221 or visit us at carrionsolutions.com.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at alliancebanktexas.com. Member FDIC, an equal housing lender.
Hello, I'm Camille Johnson with Camille Johnson Realtors. We specialize in selling residential real estate agent all across our community, and we love serving all types of families. We have been in business at Camille Johnson Realtors for almost 9 years, and I have been a residential real estate agent for almost 40 years. And we love our partnership with 365. So thank you for partnering with me, and thank you so much to all of my clients who have made our company a success.
Score big on your next ride during the Kickoff to Savings event at Richard Carr.
Score your biggest savings of the year right now on Buick. Get a 3-row 2026 Buick Enclave and save $8,500. Or non-GM owners can save $6,750 on all 2026 Buick Envisions in stock. Get here now or go online and save thousands on Buick at Richard Carr.
Find championship savings and win on your next deal at their Kickoff to Savings event at Richard Carr.
At Richard Carr, we give you more.
Pepperoni Magnifico. Pepperoni Magnifico. Marco's Pepperoni Magnifico. Classic and crispy cut pepperoni, 3 melty cheeses, all on our fresh made dough. And starting at just $12.99 for a large, it's no wonder Marco's was named America's favorite pizza chain.
This 4 o'clock hour is brought to you by Stonewood Dental, your one-stop shop for your dental needs, specializing in teeth cleaning, fillings, crowns, sealants, root canals, IV sedation, extractions, implants, bridges, dentures, full mouth restorations, and bioaesthetic dentistry. Our priority is your comfort from the moment you walk through the front door. Stonewood Dental in Robinson, Texas. It's time for the Smoke Show on 365 Sports with Craig Smoak and David Craig.
Man, oh man, when we got to know Trey Wallace, there's just always constantly something going on. And of course, he's even discussed it from all of what's happened as he's had to jump into, he now is going to law school. He's now headed to law school. He's going to get a degree because you have to. And he joins us, and of course, a hell of a writer, college football writer for Fox as well, and Outkick. How you doing, my man? How's your day?
Good. Just prepping for the bar. So everything's good. Getting in those extra study hours. So it's always something. I mean, right before we started talking, the NCAA did win a stay in one of the state court cases. This one came out of the state of Tennessee. So a number of athletes now are not eligible to go join a roster over the next week or so. So it's always something, and Big Ten and SEC, and they've garnered some headlines over the last 48 hours, and the ACC and Big 12 are coming.
What were your thoughts when the SEC released a statement about their voting or whatever, that, hey, we don't like all this, we don't like it, we need it, but never really said anything. And the next mid-morning, the Big Ten comes down and says, we're not letting it happen. Was that kind of a one-up by the Big Ten the next day or not?
From my understanding, it was the SEC, that was a holding statement, meaning they knew that they were getting together Tuesday and today in the Birmingham area. Essentially, that was them saying, hey, look, we know what's going on. We're going to have a discussion about this. A vote's going to come. I talked to multiple sources about that on that night when the statement was released. We expected the SEC to follow suit. The Big Ten, getting a head start is probably not the right word. They just got their guys on a call really quick and said, hey, let's do this. I will say the one thing that is different about the SEC and the Big Ten is the SEC put in there that this affects NBA and the WNBA.
Yeah.
So meaning the Big Ten doesn't. Now, I'm not saying that the Big Ten is not going to go in there and fix defined language and whatnot, but you saw more from the SEC when it comes to professional basketball than you did to the Big Ten. So, it was the Southeastern Conference getting all their ducks in order. But just to go back on that first part of the question, that was more so them just saying, hang tight. We got to get everybody together here, and we will for 2 days in person.
So what was the 16-0 vote? And then I saw today it might have been 15-0 vote. And apparently, I guess LSU decided what? Nothing?
Yeah. So according to multiple people that I've spoken with about this, they took an informal vote. What is today? Wednesday? Yeah. So Tuesday night, they took an informal vote regarding this. Essentially, everybody was in favor. They were. It was a 16-0 informal vote. When they got to the formal vote on Wednesday, today, in the Birmingham area at SEC offices, LSU decided, yeah, we're good. We're not going to vote on this. We're going to abstain. Some have described it as pulling the rug over their cohorts' heads a little bit, thinking, hey, we're going to go this direction. But really, we're going to go that direction. And so, I also think that LSU has made it pretty clear through their unofficial spokesperson, Lane Kiffin, over the last 2 days of where they stand. But I want to throw something at you that will make this, I think, a little bit clearer. From an NBA standpoint, LSU won a pretty big case yesterday in the Baton Rouge area when RJ Lewis was granted an injunction to be able to play, meaning LSU essentially had to go all in here. Now, I'm not saying they're forced to. What I am saying is that they have a high dollar figure player that was just made eligible. So maybe things change a little bit because, I don't know, maybe you've signed a contract with that player. Maybe that player is expecting some money when he comes on campus, which he was about 5 miles away. You saw Will Wade give him a hug after the hearing. So it's not just LSU going all in because of the third string tight end or a defensive lineman. It's the basketball side as well, which is a lot of money involved, especially with Will Wade trying to put together a roster.
And his roster would not just be Lewis affected, right? It's like basically the whole roster he has right now is hinging on this all being allowed so that he can fill that roster, if I'm reading it all correctly.
No, you are, and I'm pulling up a few different things that were involved in that, and yeah, I mean, you look at I think there's 7 players right now that are currently, I guess, eligible, best way to put it, for LSU's roster, and yeah, I mean, a lot of that hinges. I will say, we did see our first. I don't know if first is an interesting word to use at 4:15 Central Time. But current Texas A&M player Bryson Warren was granted a TRO against the NCAA today. And it was interesting because in that TRO, temporary restraining order, a judge included language about the Southeastern Conference. So it's fascinating how quick the judges are ruling, but also how they're describing their ruling and who they are including. I mean, they've got right here, it says, including any member conferences such as the Southeastern Conference. Like that doesn't just happen, guys. So Texas A&M got their guy, and what happens here is that the judge is essentially saying, hey, SEC, he should be allowed to play. You guys can't come in and overrule this according to me. But the SEC, obviously, in my opinion, is going to start hitting back pretty hard.
Trey, what did you think of just the SEC's punishments they outlined? I mean, seems like even if you're Lane Kiffin and LSU and you're like, we're going to fight this, we're going to do whatever, it's like, okay, maybe we'll pause just for a second to make sure we're going the right direction here, just because they're not playing around, at least as far as what they're threatening to do. I mean, that would be substantial, to say the least.
And guys, they're going to do it. I mean, they're going to do it. If somebody violates, now, I say they're going to do it, but then it would be caught up in a court case. There'd be a lawsuit that follows. So we'll just base it off what they've established. So 50% suspension of the season, meaning at any point this happens. So let's just say we'll use LSU, for example, because LSU is just in the news. But if LSU were to add a player, I don't know, first weekend of October, whatever, Lane Kiffin would be suspended for 50% of the remaining part of the season. If he decides that, hey, we're going to take Daquan Wright and these others immediately, and they suit up against Clemson next week, according to SEC rules, which, again, they would most likely file a lawsuit that would prevent the SEC from enforcing it if they went that route of playing these players. Lane Kiffin would be sued for half the season. And so, excuse me for that. I'd set an alarm.
That was Lane Kiffin. He's calling in. He wants to argue with you.
No, that was yesterday. Don't worry. But I think that the way that they've set up the penalties, and I think the monetary figure will be released in probably the next 48 hours. I keep an eye on that. They're wrapping up meetings today in Birmingham. I think it's a situation where, like you said, you have to second guess everything you do here. And, LSU, I want to make this point clear too. LSU was not the only SEC school that was going after NFL returnees. Kentucky and Missouri were vying for a running back here. They had looked around, but Kentucky, Missouri came back and voted to say, okay, we're good. We're not going to do this. We agree with the SEC. We're giving Greg Sankey all the power he needs to enforce this and lay down the penalties. So it is fascinating, guys, when you look at it overall on who was on that line and then said, okay, we're good. Who was on that line? And maybe they were just pulling a magic trick and then said, oh, we're not going to be voting on this.
Do you think much comes out of the reports earlier today about Kiffin kind of creating this whole mess, like instigating these players to trying to get them to enter the portal? Or is that something that just kind of comes and goes? Or is that something that there's going to be some follow-up and some, I don't know. How did you sort of read that whole story?
Well, it's not wrong, according to people I've spoken with. But I say all that. I mean, I say that to say this. You could go after other coaches around the country for trying to get former NFL players to come back. Like, guys, they don't just pop up out of nowhere. Right. I mean, Indiana took 2 players, okay? You think those players just all of a sudden said, we're going to file a lawsuit and then go join Indiana right when they get the injunction? Like, that doesn't happen. And so what you see is schools try to stay as far away as humanly possible, but also be the one that's handling the puppet. And I think, I mean, look, that goes on when it comes to paying players. I mean, you guys know this. I mean, that's nothing new. But I think at the same time, you stay far away from it until you got to jump into it. And I'm very fascinated. There's an injunction hearing on Monday in the Baton Rouge area regarding these athletes that were involved in this Louisiana case. I'm very curious to see if LSU is somehow brought into this fight, whether that be because of the SEC or whether that be because maybe the plaintiffs have to file something that proves that they are under contract now with the LSU Tigers. And if they do that, if they pull out that, let's just say there's a signed agreement for argument's sake.
Right.
They pull out that signed agreement and they say, well, LSU's collective or LSU rev share as promises this amount of money. You've brought LSU into the fight. They have to show up. That's where, to me, it gets very interesting. And again, guys, I could say this for a number of different schools that have been involved in cases like this. LSU's just at the forefront because Lane Kiffin was very outspoken in a press conference, and then he decided to go appear on the Pat McAfee show to continue his argument.
Is this going to become, is there a chance this becomes as contentious as the Big 12 and Texas Tech during the Sorsby time?
I posed that question to somebody today on my drive, and the Big 12 essentially got out in front of it, you guys know, because they filed a lawsuit. They
Right,
said, hey,
right.
we're going to stop this. We're going to get ahead. The way the SEC would have to do it, in my non-legal opinion, because I haven't taken the bar exam yet, is that I could see the SEC filing a lawsuit maybe in Birmingham, a couple of miles away from headquarters, and then seeing they have to be enjoined, into a suit down in Louisiana. But there's a difference between a state. I mean, you guys know this, state lawsuit and a federal lawsuit. So do they try to get out ahead of it? I think those are discussions that the SEC's high-paid lawyers are having right now. But they won't be caught off guard, just as when the Big 12's feet were put to the fire with the Brendan Sorsby situation. The Big 12, thanks to the AG Paxton putting out that stupid letter, which just enticed the Big 12 to come forward. I mean, no offense to Paxton, but he essentially said, right. He essentially said, "Hey, Big 12, come after us." And what did the Big 12 do? They came after him.
Right.
And so, what LSU's doing right now is they're goading the SEC. Let's just be honest. You're goading the SEC into doing something, but these players feel as though, let me rephrase that. The attorneys for the players feel as though they have an argument because of this court order. And so, personally, I'd say, why are you getting into this fight? It's not worth it for 1 year. It's not worth it for a third string lineman and some depth. But at the same time, I mean, you can't really argue. If a court says you can do something, go do it. I mean, so I don't know. It's hard for me to fully blame Lane Kiffin. And when I say that, 100%, because I think 85% is probably the right way to go here. But he's also being not told no. I mean, somebody, and I'm not just meaning him, I'm talking about the athletic department. Somebody on that campus in Baton Rouge, from the president's office to athletic director Verge Osbury, to President Wade Roos, to the governor Jeff Landry, somebody could say, yo, stop. We're pissing off the wrong people here, and we're already doing some shady stuff. We don't want to invite more people to the party, but nobody's saying no yet.
They do have the most fascinating collection of potential calamity coaching wise, as a lot of people have pointed out, with just who they've brought together. So none of this is really all that surprising. I mean, it being LSU and just Kiffin getting into something, or Mulkey being in the news, or Will Wade, all at the same time. Just it's crazy. So Trey, what do we look out for next? We've been seeing Sankey float the idea of self-governance. We've heard that being talked about. We're kind of dipping our toes into that in so many ways, because here's the SEC trying to say, no, we're not allowing it. We don't care what the courts say. And LSU's going to say what they're going to say. So are we awaiting their response to see where this goes next, or a response from elsewhere to see how dicey this gets? Or if LSU just kind of pulls a Tech and says, you know what, we don't want to fight this anymore?
I'll give you a very simple answer to look up. If any of these players and LSU fans can sit around and refresh their computer, if they pop up on the 2026 roster on the football homepage, you know it's on. Now, if you wanted a date, I would say, yep, this upcoming Monday, when they have an injunction hearing about this. That's something to pay attention to. In the meantime, I would imagine, like I said earlier, the SEC is kind of getting their ducks in a row. In the same way, if somebody tried to pull this bit with the Big Ten. So I think that where we're going right now, it doesn't look like that the LSU is going to fall in the line, but maybe they have a change of heart in the next day or so. Though, guys, I say all that knowing that the president decided not to vote today. So, I don't know what opinion could change in the next 24 hours. And especially if you're talking about them putting together, I'll finish this question with this. I know we keep talking about football, but folks, really pay attention to the basketball side.
Yeah.
Because they're going to have to fight this when it comes to RJ Lewis and others more so than they would with a couple of football players that might get a little bit of playing time this year because LSU is so stacked.
It's never ending, Trey. It really is never ending. Why haven't we seen anybody in America as a college program, athletic department, say they're not going to put LSU on their schedule? Like we saw some of the backlash from Michigan and others back when Texas Tech was the demon of all college sports.
The easy cop-out answer to that is because you have Brendan Sorsby betting on his own games.
Yeah.
And Texas Tech. Now, the complicated answer to it is there are a lot of coaches in college football that thought about doing the same thing Lane Kiffin's doing right now. So how can you really go back and blame him if Lane is doing it if you thought about it and at least tried to go down that road? Like, so that's where you get into some gray areas here where, okay, we wanted to do this. We decided to back off, but LSU is doing it supposedly right now. So how can we really blame them in the long run? See, that's where it gets kind of tricky. And I will say, like, Lane Kiffin, when he says, hey, and I'm paraphrasing, but essentially they did it first before somebody else was going to, he's right. Like, there were schools out there that were ready to add these guys. So if Lane Kiffin would have been first, let's just say on Monday, there were other schools within the conference, if this would have not happened within the SEC, that they'd have players on their roster right now. So it's really hard to put it all on Lane when there's others involved too.
No, I found myself yesterday listening to him and going, like, I don't agree with him, but he has a point. Like, he has a point. I can't argue and say that not everybody out there else is saying, well, we got to do whatever it takes to win. We got to do what it takes to win, or else I'm going to get fired if we don't win enough. So it's like, yeah, you're right, but so it's a gray area. It's weird because you don't agree with it, but there's nothing illegal about it technically. So all's fair. It's just not how we would like to see things. So yeah, it's
no. It's like Joey McGuire said, well, we're not really going after anybody right now, but we could. And it's like, like
smart,
the Kirby said, like, a lot of these coaches are thinking it.
They're all just waiting to see what happens. Yeah.
Right. But they're also saying the right things in front of the public right now. Like, you know what I mean? If your star defensive lineman goes down in the third game of the season and there is somebody out there that is good enough to play college football that might be in this situation that Daquan Wright and others are in, you want to tell me that you wouldn't go try to bring that person onto campus and sneak them into a mini semester that would make them eligible? Like, so anything goes right now in college athletics. It's all about winning, especially with the amount of money being spent on rosters.
Yeah, and no surprise. And I saw an article, I think it was Dan Wetzel, who said it's always been Lane Kiffin versus everyone.
It has. It really has.
Yeah.
Like, it's funny that you mentioned that Dan Wetzel. I have something coming out tomorrow, kind of similar. It's like it goes back to the Ole Miss days. It goes back to the Florida Atlantic days. It goes back to him being an assistant at Alabama. It is everybody against Lane. Hell, it goes back to his 1 year at Tennessee before he went to USC. Like, that's his mentality. And even though I think he has made some very, very positive changes in his life, he really has. Like, and I mean that, like, really from a health standpoint, yes, it's still Lane. And it's still the coach that's going to poke you and he's going to agitate you and he's hoping to get a response out of you. So now we're sitting in a spot where, okay, let's see what he does next. And I think LSU would be very wise. Like, they've already started the villain role. You're already the NWO. I've mentioned this before on this show. Now I say it, I'm having deja vu. I've mentioned it. Like, you are the NWO. You're Hulk Hogan, you're Scott Hall, you're Kevin Nash, you're spray painting black and white all over the belt. Like, continue doing it. Do it. You are the villain. Embrace it. And I think they've done a damn good job of embracing it.
Yeah. Next week, we're going to go over the depth chart at quarterback for Vanderbilt. I know they named a starter, and it's not the 5-star, the Jared Curtis, but he'll get his opportunities.
And we got football this weekend, my brother.
Yes.
Like, we're here.
So
we made it.
Are you going to sit down? I know you. Are you going to like sit down in front of the television for a couple of days and enjoy it? Like, it's football, Trey. It's not the other stuff.
It's finally starting to hit me that Saturday morning I get to wake up a little bit early, have a cup of coffee, get ready for some college football in Ireland, which is really weird to say, but get ready for some college football in Ireland. Everybody flip out because of what happens to Bill Belichick potentially on Saturday. And then we get North Carolina State, Virginia, get to see USC thrown in there a little bit, a couple G6 games on Saturday. Like, we're here. We finally made it after all the BS of the offseason, and it's going to continue, folks. So just prepare yourself. Senate will be back. We're not even touching that. But we finally made it to football, and this time next week I will be in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, starting to write stories for Clemson and LSU.
Look forward to your story tomorrow about Lane and his career, et cetera, and what he deals with and what he sometimes creates himself. Trey, the numbers on our site when you came on quadrupled. So thank you very much. I saw you put it up. We put up the promo that you're on, so wanted to let you know thank you for that. We appreciate it. Have a great rest of your day.
Guys, thanks so much for having me. Have a great rest of y'all's show. Look forward to talking to y'all next week from Death Valley.
Absolutely. Wednesdays at 4, Trey Wallace from Outkick and Fox is a senior college football writer.
So are we going to take a break before Matt Rule?
Yeah, we're going to take a break. We're going to go over a couple of the QB1 decisions and a couple of patches stories.
I have another story that I think is of interest for Texas Tech fans we can come back with that I think they'll be happy about.
All right, let's do that. We appreciate you. If you have not subscribed to the channel, please do. And we appreciate your time anytime you give it to us. I said that in the chat room, and I mean it, and it's always appreciated. This is 365 Sports. Home Place Interiors. They are, every day, they specialize in flooring, carpeting, and all of that, but they also can help spice up what you have, whether it's your apartment, and it depends on where you live about whether you can change carpet or whatever, but the flooring, you could do that whether you're in a condo, whether you own a home, and I also want to make sure I mention it could be where you have your office. It's always rug season. They have the largest selection of area rugs in town. Wood, tile, carpet, and vinyl plank flooring, and their knowledgeable staff that includes the owners, Selena and Stephanie, in what they do now in owning, operating Home Place Interiors located on Lake Air Drive in Waco. A longtime owner, John Proctor, still there. Every day I met with them. It's been about a month since the early part of, I guess it was maybe late July, and they are a sponsor, have been now during football season. We appreciate them. Offering interiors, everything that you could imagine to dress up your home. Beautiful one-of-a-kind area rugs to custom window treatments, and they could also help you build your own and make your own and then design your own particular rug that you're looking for. Again, wood, tile, carpet, vinyl plank flooring. I have a lot of wood flooring, mahogany type color of flooring where I live. Stephanie, Selena, Katie, and John can help you out. The 5-star reviews are everywhere. You want some advice. You want an estimate. You want to look at beautiful rugs. Go to Home Place Interiors on the website, homeplaceinteriorstx.com, or their location off Lake Air Drive in Waco.
90 years ago, Bert Cullen Ford made a commitment, not just to sell Fords, but to serve Waco. What began in 1936 wasn't a transaction, it was a partnership built through hard work, quality, and integrity, mile by mile. For over 4 generations, Bert Cullen has been driven by Waco. Thank you for the road we've traveled together and the miles that lay ahead.
Petty Clinic Men's Healthcare in Woodway is now proud to offer you men an exceptional weight management body sculpting product called semaglutide, also known as Ozempic or Wegovy. Semaglutide is an FDA-approved weight management medication. Once-a-week injections of this powerful medication offers an average body fat weight loss of 20% within the first year of treatment. In addition to body sculpting, semaglutide also normalizes blood sugars and has the clinical research proof of reducing blood pressure, cholesterol, stroke, and heart attack risk. If you're like most men and you have stubborn fat that will just not respond to typical diets and exercise, then help is finally here. Semaglutide. Affordable, highly effective. Google search Petty Clinic Waco and reach out to the Petty Clinic team today for a free consultation with Dr. Petty to see if semaglutide is right for you. Go to pettycliniclowt.com.
Whatever it is you wrangle, whatever seeds you sow, no matter what you nurture or what you choose to grow, at Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, we're proud to protect all Texans.
When you play hard, sometimes you fall hard. Sports injuries require special treatment. At Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, our team of expert doctors provides athletes and active adults with comprehensive sports medicine care, diagnostics. Whether you're in high school, college, or beyond, we'll help you get back on the field. Call on the team physicians for Baylor Athletics. Call Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics.
You were made for more. More than the ordinary. More than the expected. You were made for big moments. Made for new friends. Made for the kind of experience that stays with you. And yes, made to discover. Made to create. Made to turn hard work into real opportunity. At Tarleton State, college is more than what happens in a classroom. You were made for more. You were made to be a Texan.
I pitched in the major leagues for 24 years, and let me tell you, I can feel it in my joints. Shoulders, elbows, and knees. Trust me, pain doesn't retire when you do. I tried everything to get rid of the pain. Nothing worked until QC Kinetics.
Baseball legend Roger Clemens and other patients are getting lasting relief with QC Kinetics regenerative treatments. No surgery.
I trust QC Kinetics. You should too. Let's commit to getting rid of all the pain.
Schedule your free consultation today. QC Kinetics. Better starts here.
From the TFNB Your Bank for Life studio. Now, it's time for the Smoke Show. Presented by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance. We are Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, your insurance provider built by Texans for Texans. And we've been protecting families in our great state since 1952. TFNB, your bank for life, serving Central Texans since 1889. It's time for the Smoke Show on 365 Sports with David Smoak and Craig Smoak.
And welcome back into the Smoke Show here on 365 Sports. As we headed into the break, we promised you some news on Texas Tech, and it is pretty substantial news, maybe not unexpected, but it is big news, and literally figuratively big news for Texas Tech as a flush of reports coming down here in the last 30 minutes revolving around five-star plus defensive lineman Jalen Brewster, who we just learned in the last couple days will be transferring to finish out his high school career at Beaufort, Georgia. But there was some thoughts over the last several weeks and months about his recruitment and where he might end up, and LSU really pushing hard, and Texas Tech obviously in a very strong position where he's been committed for a long time. And let the speculation end, because Jalen Brewster has made it official that he is going to go to Texas Tech. Like, he's making his final decision here and telling various outlets that he is shutting down his recruitment. That's always the term you hear when that's about as official as you can make it, is to say you're shutting down your recruitment, and that's what he says he's doing. So Jalen Brewster shutting it on down, and looks like he is for sure 100% going to be Red Raider bound.
We mentioned, it was a couple of days ago, there was, see you, Garrett, we mentioned that he's transferring to Beaufort High School in Georgia, which is a high-level school, and there were thoughts about, okay, what school gets more of Beaufort players, and a lot of them do. And when I asked a couple of people, I said, "Is there anything to this?" And he was at Cedar Hill. Said, "No, people are going to make a lot more out of it than it is." He is locked in on Tech. I didn't know it was going to come back yet a couple of days later, so there he is.
Yeah, and so sorry we maybe made too much of it. It's just not every day that guys are just willy-nilly transferring high schools before their senior year to go chase NIL money or early enrolling or whatever. I guess it does happen, but when you're the top prospect in the entire country, there's certainly a different level of microscope on you. So, yeah, I think it was something to at least go, that's interesting. But obviously, any flicker of a flame has been doused, and doesn't mean that people will stop trying to go after him, but that's about as locked in as you can possibly be. I know there's plenty of Tech fans who never doubted it. They've been confident throughout, but if you needed any push in the confidence direction, then I think it was just delivered by Jalen Brewster. And I want to say, I know he's talked to reporters apparently, but he's also got a YouTube channel. And I don't know if he actually posted a video there. I didn't have time to watch it before the break, but I know he does have a channel and he's posting stuff on there. So maybe that was addressed on this little sit-down interview I saw him. It looked like he was a part of with some young lady. So, yeah, there you go. There's a big news for Texas Tech, and the rich get richer.
Yep. Big, huge body. And one of the things, some teams, when they've added players or whatever, is like a quarterback or whatever. They have what they did last year with the defense and what they will have this year, too, along with the offense being very explosive, too.
Well, at a position where that's where you win national
titles.
Oh,
my God.
Like,
yeah,
that's where you have the difference in being a Big 12 champion and being a college football playoff finalist. That's when you get the Jalen Brewsters into the mix. So, yeah, I mean, I know they've got the quarterbacks coming along and the skill position guys and all of that, but, man, when you start signing like the Jalen Brewsters of the world, that's when you know you've really gotten into some deeper waters.
There's Dave Aranda, back when they had that really good team in 21, I asked him about the difference in the SEC players on defense compared to the Big 12. Of course, different styles in some cases. He goes, it's the dudes up front. It's those guys up front, and they had them last year. Some of those will be in the NFL this year. And then also, that's Brewster starting when he enrolls sometime in January. Now, North Texas has their QB1, Taven Jackson. And they open up against Indiana, the defending national champions. Matt Zennett with this story, and eventually others from CBS Sports. But Taven Jackson now QB1 for North Texas and he's now the replacement for Drew Mestamaker, who's at Oklahoma State.
Yeah, I think a downgrade. Sorry, Taven, but
golly, you're not.
I mean, what am I comparing him to? Like the biggest, brightest quarterback prospect that emerged from last year's entire season. It was Drew Mestamaker, as much as anybody else. So, yeah, I think the team as a whole, with Neil Brown in year one, stand to be a bit of a downgrade because of the record-setting year that they had. But no, I mean, Taven Jackson's a fine player. He was a part of a grouping at UCF that just never really got off the ground for various reasons, and a guy who's been around the block for a while now, so has some experience from his time in Orlando. And Neil Brown knows quarterbacks, so I'll trust that he knows what he's doing in naming Taven Jackson the starter. But, yeah, I think it's just going to be really weird for UNT fans to go from just how crazy last year was to settling back into sort of a new normal, although let's see where Neil Brown can take him. Maybe he can take him to similar heights if given enough time. But yeah, I mean, he's a fine quarterback.
No, so he's number one. They open up against Indiana, then also.
But there's a weird
Vanderbilt.
There's a weird story though. Is like there was some Indiana connection that I forget that I saw earlier today where, like, he got bumped off the team for, I don't know. I think he went back to like Sorsby and Crossing Pass, and now here he is. He's all the way back. And it was something really strange like that. I need to find the tweet, but it was like this it's a small world in college football kind of a stat regarding Taven Jackson, and dumb me to bring it up and then not know what you're talking about.
Well, as a sophomore, he was at FIU. No.
He was at
Indiana. Yeah. He's from Indiana. He's from Greenwood, Indiana, and was at Tennessee, of course, and Indiana, and now eventually he is at North Texas.
Oh no, it's North Texas plays Indiana in the opener.
That's why the story to me was.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's what it was. He was at Indiana, so now just weird that he's going to be playing Indiana.
Vanderbilt has named Blaze Berlowitz, as their QB1. There's a lot of thoughts about, well, wait a minute, they have the 5-star quarterback, the true freshman. In fact, we made a comment about that. Jaden Curtis, a fantastic player. He will most likely be very much involved, but he'll make the start, Austin Peay, for Vanderbilt in their game on September the 5th.
Jared Curtis, not Jaden Curtis. Jared Curtis. No need to rush the 5-star right into starting action. A lot of people are excited about him, but I can understand them wanting to kind of ease on in and give Blaze the opportunity first. And obviously Vanderbilt's heavily in business with Jared Curtis, and he's the future, and he might be the present sooner rather than later. I know a lot of people excited to see him, so I think we will. Definitely will see him. They said as much in the statement or in the response is that he will play in the opener, so he might be starting quarterback by week 2, depending on how things go. But, just not right out of the gates full-time just yet, so we'll see if Blaze Berlowitz can try to hold him off a bit and see what all that looks like, but certainly there's a buzz building in Nashville.
Tennessee Volunteers are going to honor the legacy of Dolly Parton. The decal on their helmet, obviously yesterday an emotional day for pretty much everybody. I sat last night, I went home and started working on some things that I have when it comes to either the show or high school football coverage. And Craig, I sat there and I went to YouTube and watched a bunch of singers and Dolly Parton singing Jolene on stage. It was fabulous. And I watched it several different times and read a few things more, of course, about her amazing career. And I said this yesterday, you didn't really ever hear anybody say anything negative about her. You didn't. You really didn't. Obviously a huge loss, and Tennessee will honor her, as you could imagine, in their game with the decal.
So by a lot of people, do you mean Emmylou Harris and Linda Ronstadt? Is that who she was performing
No,
with?
I saw that, but no, this was...
Because that video is definitely making the
rounds. There was a combination. There was a couple of guys in it as well, but it was on stage. There's like 7 or 8 different singers that was singing Jolene, which, of course, is a phenomenal song. Just the beat of it is great alone.
Well, that's 3 incredibly talented women and a hell of a collaboration they had, and apparently... Well, not just that one. I mean, collaborations over the years, but apparently good friends, and doesn't sound like anybody really wasn't a friend of Dolly Parton's that came across her. I mean, a lot of people. I saw Eminem put out a letter that she had sent about them not meeting at one of the award shows, and he said it was a shame they never got to meet, but he really appreciated that letter and everything it meant to him. And you could read the letter. He posted it. It's very sweet. She says, like, even, I know this sounds weird, but hopefully it doesn't sound too weird, but I've always felt a connection to you from afar and was hoping to meet you, but these award shows are crazy and maybe next time. And I'm just sitting there thinking, damn, Em, you didn't try to make something happen? Because the letter was from a while back. It's bro, you couldn't fly out to Nashville and meet Dolly? Because I sure as hell would have had the opportunity. But busy guy. All the entertainers are, I think, pretty typically busy. So easier said than done. But that's a cool keepsake. And a lot of people have either physical things like that or mental memories that she provided through her songs or through her acting. Steel Magnolias was on TV last night because, of course, it was because Dolly passed. So let's throw up Steel Magnolias on TV. And, she just touched a lot of lives and she did a lot of good. And you don't need to read too far into anything about her, any article, to see just how kind and good of a person she was. And obviously immensely talented.
Pink, Annie Lennox, Pat Benatar, Brandi Carlile, Sheryl Crow, Rob Halford from Judas Priest, Simon LeBon from Duran Duran, and also Dave Stewart from Eurythmics.
I'll take Dolly, Linda, and Emmylou. That's a hell of a freaking trio right there, especially in their primes. But, that's cool that Tennessee's doing that. I would expect nothing less with the passing of a legend, especially somebody who meant so much to that state. So, good on them.
All right, and then also a couple of others. Let's see. Hawaii becomes the first school to have a patch with an airlines company as a sponsor. Hawaiian Airlines, there's the patch. There is the Mountain West patch, also the H, of course, Hawaii as well. And they have Hawaiian Airlines as a part of their jersey. That's with Brett McMurphy and that story. And also another patch to mention is Troy, the first of its kind jersey patch at the group of 6 level. Troy Bank and Trust now part of their official jerseys, sponsoring all of the 16 programs that Troy Athletics, including logo placement on all coaches' in-game apparel starting this fall.
Do we know any money figures?
No.
I was hoping they'd be close enough to the Big 12, just piss off some guy from Utah who wants to bitch about everything about the league and everything that's wrong with it. But I've actually seen some of the monetary figures surrounding some of these other deals, and you know what? They're not great. They're not like big, huge money. I don't know. I didn't do the math on how they like equate to the way the Big 12's divvying it up, but they're not $1 million. And I know we're talking about Hawaii, so you wouldn't expect them to be, nor Troy for that matter, but good for them. I mean, I think those both make a lot of sense for them. If we're going to have to do it, at least make sense. Those both make sense.
$2.1 million over 4 years. So $500,000.
$500,000, they're getting half what the Big 12 gets for the league-wide patch, and I do understand the hand-wringing a little bit. I think some people though just have a bone to pick, and it's pretty obvious.
I made it clear last week. You weren't here when I went off about that.
Oh, okay, but you know, I think for those two schools, that's great. You're trying to find money wherever you can, so an extra $500,000 every year. Hell yeah, we can definitely put that to good use, and they're not super egregious or whatever. I actually saw Cyclone Fanatic had a jersey patch that they were sponsoring one of the, and now I'm forgetting it, but they were sponsoring like the D2 or D3 school in Iowa, which I thought was, or it's Iowa Everywhere, which is a part of Cyclone Fanatic's a part of.
In fact, that's what the next one's going to be. Not Iowa, but something similar to that. You're right.
But yeah, no, I just thought that was really cool that Chris Williams and his company,
Absolutely.
Grandview University is what it was. The back-to-back NAIA national champions, they've put a jersey patch on, so that's awesome.
I love what Chris Williams and Cyclone Fanatics does. Finally, Montana football will feature the University of Montana Foundation as its first jersey patch partner. Every Grizzly will wear a For Montana patch to raise awareness and support for scholarships benefiting Montana resident students. So giving back to those around the university in the state of Montana.
And honestly, with all the other stuff going on, the jersey patches and the fear of those, or not fear, but just the not wanting to have those part of the game, but although it was inevitable when money is what it is, really doesn't feel like that big of a deal. Doesn't feel like that big of a deal as we approach and get closer, but it will be interesting to see on Saturday how it all blends together, the sponsorships, the jerseys, all of that, because I've seen what they've done to WWE, and it is egregious, the amount of ads and
NASCAR egregious?
Yeah, no, WWE is definitely. Oh yeah, they're whatever they can put a logo on, they're putting a logo on. To the point of a couple of weeks ago, had a guy pay off this long storyline, Chad Gable, and he gets this big moment in front of his family where he wins a belt. Big, huge thing, big payoff, big moment. And immediately after he's celebrating in the ring, here comes a A&W root beer mascot to jump in the ring and celebrate and do a photo op in this big moment of his career. And I know some people, it's like it's pro wrestling. Even for pro wrestling, that's egregious. Like, that is a money grab that is just so foul. So, yeah, we'll see how egregious it gets with college football. But so far, not that bad, honestly.
All right, when we come back, Nebraska football coach Matt Rule joined us earlier today with a lengthy interview about the Huskers and what he's trying to do in Lincoln and what they're trying to do and get over the hump. That and more, the wheel at the end of the show. This is 365 Sports. It's time to compete against yourself, finding too many excuses not to work out combined with bad eating habits, and Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness can help reach inside your competitive soul. Discipline, getting results you've only dreamed about, personal training, group exercise classes, and even a tanning bed, world-class tennis facility, and pickleball courts and lessons available. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness, spacious, clean workout rooms, free weights, state-of-the-art technology, weight training equipment, and no intimidation. It's time for you to react today, not tomorrow, at Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
Make
Make this the summer event at Allen Samuels in Waco. Get summer ready in a new Jeep Wrangler Sport. Your choice, 0% for 36 months or just $33,848. Want more truck and more fun? Check out the 2026 Jeep Gladiator Mojave. Your choice, 0% for 36 months or save $10,000. Take the top off and hit the road. Allen Samuels Jeep.
Come by, let's be friends.
Automatic Chef is your local vending, office coffee, and micro market provider, delivering outstanding service to break rooms all over Central Texas for over 50 years. Automatic Chef brings the best products to your location at the best prices. With hundreds of choices in fresh food, coffee, snacks, and drinks, make break time great again with Automatic Chef. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchef.com.
This 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Financial Advisors, Ben Erlinson and Brad Wilson in Waco, and Cam Heathcott in Conroe, with an individualized approach to addressing your financial needs, including education, savings, planning for retirement, and protection strategies. Edward Jones Financial Advisors, making sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. It's time for the Smoak Show on 365 Sports with Craig Smoak and David Craig.
Nebraska football coach Matt Rule with us. Craig Smoak, David Craig, 365 Sports. And, man, it's go time. It is absolutely, first of all, great to see you. It is go time. How much are the last few days before your opening game any year? You got things that are still loose in the closet, or you're trying to kind of put it all together?
Yeah, I think it's different. Really, there's two types of ways it's different. Like some years you're in camp all the way up until game week, and then school starts. And so, that's kind of a different feel. Like camp starts to drag on a little bit, which is good. You start giving maybe let them get a little earlier, but you're still kind of in football all day. This year, for us at least, we're in school this week, so this is kind of like a dead week, like 0 week, whatever you want to call it. I know there's some games on. I can't wait to watch some ball games this week, but you're trying to get the guys used to, like, hey, in the season schedules, you're trying to get them used to managing class, managing study hall, managing meals, getting here. But yeah, I think it'd be a shame if you wasted this week. I mean, so much of football is situational football and things that happen. I try not to get caught up in the past, but one thing I tried to share this team this year, Smoak, is like, I showed them that 2019 team we had, and like, and how many games, at the end of the year, it says you're 11-1 in the regular season, but like you're in overtime, 53-yard field goal to go in overtime at TCU. You're in overtime against Tennessee Tech, right? Or Texas Tech. So many things came down to the wire in those games, and it's, Charlie Brewer. I sure hope Baylor fans appreciate Charlie Brewer, man. Charlie Brewer, it's 2nd and 19 at the 1 yard line, and he drives us 99. Denzel, God love him, drops the touchdown, and then makes a great play in overtime. But the guy had a 99-yard drive, and so you're out there talking about situational football. It's the middle of camp, it's hot. Guys are like, "What are you talking about, coach?" You show them how this can like change seasons, change lives, And so I think there's lots of stuff that we're still racing through to get done.
Coach, obviously you're deeply embedded in Lincoln now, but you're bringing up some of the Baylor days. Does it feel like almost 10 years since you took that job initially? I just thought about that on the way over here of like, man, it's crazy how time flies by.
That sure does seem crazy. I hadn't even thought about that. My youngest daughter, Leona, she's now 11. Like to this day, she'll still tell people like, I'm going to Baylor someday. So we had such a great, experience there, maybe not always at the beginning. The first year was tough. The things we dealt with were tough. Not everyone really wanted Julie and I there. People weren't afraid to tell us, that why do we bring this guy in from New York? But we met so many great people, and you guys are two of those people. I don't know if I keep in touch with anybody as much as I keep in touch with you. You, Smokey. So we met great people and those players there. We love those players. I love the university. I love Linda Livingstone. I love the mission of the university. Mac Rhodes was so good to me. Jeremiah Dickey, my good friend Doug McNamee. So excited to see him getting the opportunity that he's got. He's one of the guys who came and interviewed me for that job, and I'll never forget. Like I met those guys the night before just to say hello, and I came back, and obviously there were two jobs on the table, and Oregon was a pretty attractive job. I remember telling my wife, I said, I just feel like there's something about this place. And a lot of that was Doug. And so, yeah, so it obviously been a lot has happened since then, you know. But you know, that's life, man. It's never about what you've done. It's about what's next. But I'm very grateful to the people I met there and the time I had there.
Did they kidnap you and not let you get on a plane or something for an interview when you were trying to talk with Oregon? I heard there was some sort of meeting and they just try to keep you locked up, so to speak.
Yeah, I met with them in Philadelphia, right? And so I remember, you know, I had talked to Mac after the game, and he kind of was like, you know, it's too bad you don't have any Texas ties. You wouldn't be a great fit. I was actually at a party, and I was scheduled, I think, to talk to like Purdue like on Monday, and then like Oregon on Monday or something like that. And I remember saying to him, I said, Mac, I don't know, man. I said, I know I've never been to Texas. I said, but I know one thing about Texas high school football. Like, I'll appreciate people who care about kids and care about football. I said, but I am the son of a Baptist preacher. I do believe in the university's mission. I said, I think there's probably more there than we realize. And so then he took a little bit, called me back. Bob Bodine was helping with the search. I talked to Bob, and then, I was supposed to meet with them on Monday, and then I was going to take the train, I think, to New York City back then the National Football Foundation was there, and a lot of jobs kind of happened back at that time. And I was meeting with Oregon there. And I met with those guys the night before. I remember saying to Julie, like, hey, do you want to go meet with me, these guys? And she was really, really, like, she felt really strongly about Mac Rhodes. Like, he had been at Missouri, and they'd come and tried to, hire me the year before, and we decided to stay at Temple, but she trusted him. And she was like, I don't need to meet anybody there. If that's where we're going, I'm good with it. And I had the interview, got done, and they were like, hey, hey, we think you're the right fit. Why don't you take the job? And I was like, I need to go have this interview with Oregon. Like, my word is my word. And they tried to get me not to go. Bob Bodine, as we went upstairs, he said to me, hey, what are your concerns? And I was like, well, there's obviously some issues there right now. There's some problems. And he said, like, hasn't God always provided you with everything you need in your life? Like, he'll bring the right people into your life, into this mission to get this done. And it really stuck with me, right? And then we went and met with Oregon, had a great experience with the people at Oregon, wonderful people. My good buddy Eric's there, and then one of the associate ADs there. And then we went to dinner that night, and we had the job offer. And we sat there and prayed about it and thought about it and talked about it. I called Phil Snow. I called George DeLeon, who's now deceased. Great friend of mine, my two best mentors in football. And they both were like, I think we should go to Texas. I think Texas high school football coaches will appreciate us, and it's the right place. And I felt like that's where God wanted me to be, and we did it. And I think that was the right decision for us.
And now you're in Lincoln. It's again, year 4. What is the difference between what you've tried or are trying to do there compared to Temple? Or, of course, we know when you took over at Baylor, it was a very difficult time.
Well, I just think, I took over Temple. I didn't know what I was doing. I just tried to get a little bit better every day. I took over Baylor. I didn't know what I was doing, probably. I wasn't prepared for what was there. But we try to get a little bit better every day. So it's the same thing here. I think, the biggest difference at those two places is I played the freshmen. I played the young guys. I just basically, after like a couple of weeks, was like, okay, we're not very good. I'm going to play these guys. So, I put Charlie Brewer in, put John Lovett in. I put, that sophomore class, the Clay Johnsons, and I put Terrell Bernard. I just was like, hey, we'll just play, and eventually, these guys will beat up on us, and eventually we'll beat up on them. And so, in my third year at Temple, those kids were all juniors and seniors, and we went to the conference championship game. The next year, we won it. At Baylor, my third year, we went to the conference championship game. I left, and the next year was COVID. I don't ever pay attention to that. And the next year, Coach Aranda and all those kids won it. One of my best moments was Jalen Preachy and Terrell Bernard FaceTiming me and Sarava and all of us from the locker room. Like, all that work was worth it. Here I got here, and there was such a great core of kids, like Nebraska kids, that were just dying to get us to a bowl game. And so instead of playing the young guys, we kind of doubled down on those guys, and we got so close that first year. We lost to Iowa by 3, we lost to Maryland by 3, and we finished 5-7. So then the turnover started to happen the next year, and but it's the same thing. We're just trying to get a little bit better every day. We haven't done what we've wanted to do, but we've done things. We've got back to bowl games. We've gotten us back to back-to-back bowl games for the first time in 10 years. But that's not why we came to Nebraska. The opportunity to come to Nebraska was come to a place that's won 5 national championships, that's played for it many others, that has 3 Heisman trophies, and try to bring that back. And so, you have an Emmett Johnson last year who's in the Heisman discussion. He's an All-American, first offensive All-American in quite some time. But we just got to get the whole thing put together. And you develop now in college football, you develop a player. He's there for a year, he's there for two, and then someone offers him a bag and he's gone, right? So just trying to adjust to the new world. And you don't want to be one of those guys who's like, well, it should be like this, or back in the day it was like this. Trying to get everyone here in the administration, athletic administration, in the community to understand, like, hey, this is what it takes to play at this table, and getting our players to understand this is what it takes to win the Big Ten, and getting myself to understand, hey, this is the new world of college football. But we won 5 regular season games the first year, 6 the second year, 7. People are kind of writing us off for dead now, but not us. We're gonna go battle.
Do you almost like not having maybe as many people talking about you as you have the last couple of years?
100%. 100%. I got here and people would say, like, winning the offseason. I never really heard of that. To me, like, your job is to try to be great at everything you do. So you want to be great in recruiting, you want to be great in the community. This year, last year we did a podcast. We thought it was like important, like, to get our players some access, find a way to get our players some more NIL money, get some more national exposure. While we're very well covered here, we're not super well covered nationally. So doing things like McAfee, doing things like that, we tried it. And then, the administration came to me this year and was like, hey, we're not going to do the podcast anymore. Let's just settle all that down, and more time for me, man. I'm good with whatever the rules of engagement are. I'm good with it, man. So, but I think that's what we need. Like, we need to get past hype and get to the substance. Some people, might think I'm trying to fuel the hype, but like, if they ask me to do something, I do it, right? Talk, you guys call, say, hey, will you do this? I'll obviously always do anything for you guys. But at the end of the day, like, I spend my day coaching and recruiting, and I think we're in a really good spot right now, man. We have a team full of veteran players. We have a great Big Ten schedule. We have a lot of guys that have another year with us. So it's not like it's like, hey, this is only a bunch of 1-year players here. We have probably one of the best recruiting classes we've had in a long, long time, and kids that know what's happening on the inside of the building, that really want to be here. And so to me, now is our time, these next 2-3 years, to accelerate, get this recruiting class in, build off what we did in the portal last year, build off kids we developed. And it all starts, next Saturday for us.
Nasty, tough, physical, football IQ, smart, whatever. Those are words that I wrote down when I thought about what a Matt Rule team, or what you would want with your team. Have you been able to do that, and are you better or closer to that this year?
Well, I think the first 2 years we were here, I think we were in the top 10 or 15 in every defensive category, and with not a lot of help always from the offense, right?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
I mean, we went to Iowa 2 years ago. We lost the game, and no one wants – stats don't matter. It's about winning games. But I mean, Ty Robinson, I think we held Iowa to like 4 rushing first downs, or now they found a way to win the game, which is where we have to get to. But yeah, we were physical and we were tough. We took a step backwards in that area last year, and really at the end of throughout the course of the year, but really at the end of the year. And when that happens, you got to put it on yourself, man. Like, okay, well, why did we get away from this? Like, it's always small things, small decisions, small things that you don't realize at the time that come back to haunt you. And so that builds experience and wisdom. And so, we just try to remain really true to who we are. We don't want to listen to anyone on the outside. Unless I listen. I mean, I study people all the time. I talk to people all the time, but I think that's really, like, when you're trying to do something as big as this is, to get a true blue blood back into the national mix, like, you're going to encounter, steps along the way, and you have to be humble enough to listen, and you have to be tough enough to know when not to listen, to when not to panic. And so we've made tough decisions. But this is by far, the best group we've had, and that we've had good groups, but just kind of all around. And I love what the offensive line's doing for us. You're not going to win at Nebraska if you can't run the football, between the weather and all the things, the ethos of this place, the history of this place. You better be able to run the football. You better be able to stop the run. And, this combination of guys here is the best that we've had. And so I think, through 3 years here, we've kind of figured out, the formula. There'll be more things that we learn, but I think we're taking a closer step this year.
Does the recent success of the Big Ten, the last 3 national titles, and then Indiana's obviously a great story, does that give you some rub being affiliated in that collection of schools, or does it apply more pressure?
I mean, I put so much pressure on myself that, I don't really respond to outside pressure. I might sometimes get a little bristled at like pressure on our players because, I mean, we want to put pressure on them. I want them to put pressure on themselves, but sometimes I try to probably maybe defend them, maybe too much. I don't know. No, I take tremendous pride in being in the Big Ten. Even when the first year we were in the Big Ten, the Big Ten West is not what it is now. The schedule, from 2000 and whatever it was till 2023 is way different than it is now. Big Ten went out and got one of the best teams in the country in Oregon, one of the best teams in the country historically in USC with a great coach in Lincoln. Brought in the team that played for the national championship, Washington, brought them into the league. So, like, getting through this gauntlet in this league is really, really tough. But, like, we take pride in that. Like, I don't complain about the schedule. I'm excited about the schedule. Like, I used this schedule this year to recruit these kids. I said, man, come to Nebraska, man. We're going to play Iowa on a Friday. We're gonna have Ohio State in our building. We're gonna have Indiana in our building. We're gonna be at Oregon. We have a ranked Washington team, a ranked Illinois team. Like, Rutgers has, done great things. They're kind of back to being themselves with Coach Schiano being back. Michigan State has Pat Fitzgerald now, one of the great coaches in football. Maryland, he had 3 8-win seasons in a row with a great young quarterback in Malik. I mean, there's a lot in this league. There's a lot more parity than nationally we give ourselves credit for. And then, oh, by the way, a 9-4 Ohio team's coming in. Eddie George, Coach Bowling Green's team's coming in, and we play the number 10 team in FCS. With that word Dakota and in North Dakota. I mean, we play a great schedule, but that's why you come to Nebraska. You want to be the feared, not the one who's fearing. And so I'm proud to be in the Big Ten. I think it's a great, great conference.
You have the NFL blood in your system too, DNA. And now all this going on, although the Big Ten came out with a statement, the SEC, among others, what are your thoughts about what was going on? And did you all at least dip into some rosters in the NFL to see who could be available for you?
Yeah, it's really interesting, David. It's like at the end of the day, like, I think Ryan Day said it really well. Like, I didn't want to do that. You know what I mean? Like, I've been coaching these kids, some of these kids for 3 years, some of these kids for 7 months. I didn't want to bring in someone who was in the national. I mean, can you imagine like going through an off season, training, lifting, not taking any classes, training at training at Exos or whatever, then being in NFL preseason games, and then coming back to college? That would be like them having a rule that all the freshmen at UT, A&M, Houston, TCU, Texas Tech, and Baylor, and whoever else could go back and play high school football. You know what they would do after a spring football and a fall? If they went back to high school, they'd be so much more prepared. They're a year older, a year stronger. So I didn't, as a college football loyalist, I didn't love it. Same time, if you have 2 injuries in the NFL and all of a sudden you're down 2 defensive tackles, you claim someone off waivers. So, like the thought of it was not what I wanted. The belief in it was not what I wanted. But at the end of the day, like, my job is to do what's best for Nebraska. And I thought Ryan said that well. So I was kind of encouraged that the Big Ten and the SEC made those decisions, because it just takes it off our plate, right? Because then if you have some injuries or you have an opportunity, you don't do it, as a coach, like, you're putting yourself at risk. And, with roster limits now, so what are you going to do? Cut a guy on your team to bring someone else in? Like, I mean, that's affecting someone's life. So I'm glad that, those things came out, instead of taking it out of the coaches' hands and having the coaches take all the heat, like, let's make some decisions as conferences. And they did. Tony Petitti stepped up. Greg Sankey stepped up. The leadership in the conferences stepped up, made those decisions. I don't know if the Big 12's done it yet. I don't know if the ACC has done it yet, but at some point, man, like, it's kind of like Hoosiers, man. When for a buddy or whoever wouldn't listen to coach and they had 4 guys, you say, hey, my team's on the floor. Like, we kind of want to play with the guys we've coached and trained, and also want to play against people that they've coached and trained. And, to me, the biggest thing in college football is just keep it all equal. There's not equal salary caps. There's not equal schedules. Some teams play 8, some teams play 9 conference games. Some teams have different conference rules. Like, the NFL is the best run professional league in the world. And they keep parity at its core and equality at its core. And I think this was a great step in the right direction.
Matt, just 2 more questions, and appreciate your time. There's all this discussion about the future. TV contracts are up. There's this even discussion about a super league and all the things that are going on with the cap, whatever number that really is. Is Nebraska in the middle of it? It's got all the history and the tradition, but it's been a while, as you know. That's why you're there. Is Nebraska, in your opinion, full throttle to be in the middle of that as things change?
Yeah, I think that we all have to assume that things are going to continue to change, right? And I think anyone who tries to predict it is foolish, because we can't say exactly what's going to happen, but I think it's worthwhile. I mean, you think about Baylor. Like at one point, there was the Southwestern Conference, and then it broke up, and some teams were the Big 12, some teams weren't able to go to the Big 12, and Nebraska left the went to
the Big 8,
went to the Big 12, then went to the Big 10. At the end of the day, every university is going to do what's right for themselves, and so I think we should all assume that at some point, these things are going to change. Like the salary caps, the spending on rosters in college football has gone up by 60% every year, right? So, people can say, "Oh, it's bound to slow down, man," but what tells you that? Isn't history usually the greatest predictor of what's going to happen? So it's probably going to go up 60% again next year. There's probably going to be 60, 70, $80 million rosters next year. And so for me, I think the biggest thing is for us to be relevant, for us to be in that super league, if there's a super league, for us to get the proper, you see the ACC went to not all equal revenue, right? You kind of eat what you kill type of a model. As those things happen, if they do happen, and I think it's worthwhile to think that they might happen, your inputs in the future are going to outputs in the future, are going to match your inputs now. And so you can't do anything now for right now. You're investing for what's going to happen someday. Just like when we went to Baylor, I played the freshman and went 1-11 so that someday we could go 11-1. I think, it's not, everyone thinks it's like one rich donor at these places. There might be one or two schools like that. It's the university. It's the decision. How important is football to our university? How important is it to enroll? When I was at Baylor, obviously there's a lot had happened before that. I remember sitting in a meeting in Scholastic of America, which looks at school rankings. They read off, and it was how many parents of young girls, I first got there, would not allow their daughters even to look at Baylor University because they had read so much in the newspapers. I think it was at 15 or 20% of parents would allow their students. That's a death sentence for a university, especially a private university. And 2 years later, as we're sitting in meetings in the middle of that run to go 11-1, number was back up to 85%. And that doesn't mean people are going to let their kids go to school based upon where football is good. It means that when you have a good football program, you present well, you're on national TV more. Do you know how expensive it is to buy a 3-hour time slot on, NBC football on Saturday night? A commercial's worth a lot of money. Imagine what a 3-hour infomercial is worth. And so having College Game Day come to Baylor, all those things mattered. But had they not invested 3 years earlier, they would not be where they were. So for us in Nebraska, we've made great progress, and there's great progress to go. And I think that's not a Matt Rule decision. That's an athletic department decision. That's a state decision. How important is Husker football to our future student recruiting? How important is Husker football to having our graduates want to stay in state? How important is national exposure to our university? We have a great university with amazing things going on. There are jobs in the state of Nebraska, and it's an amazing place to live. The window into all that so often is nationally televised games in football. It's Fred and the Sweet 16. It's Danny and the young women at Nebraska volleyball. It's our softball team, but a lot of it is also football. And so to me, this isn't I love football. It's a financial decision. It's for the best thing in the university. So we have a lot of great people who care greatly about the state, greatly about the university, greatly about football. As the market moves, we have a decision to make. Are we going to be at the top of the market, the middle of the market, or the low end of the market? And that's really what every school has to make. I'm not making a plea for us. This is every school. Doug at Baylor has to make the same decision. What can we do? But make no mistake, you're not giving money so you can get players. You're giving money so that you can have visibility, so that you can have the ROI. And if you don't believe that, just look what's happened at Georgia. Just look what's happened in Alabama. Look at all the kids pouring out of the Northeast to go down south because they want to go to a big school with great Greek life, with great sports, and they see them on TV. They watch South Carolina on a Saturday night. And they say to themselves, I might want to go to school there. And so that's what Baylor, that's what we're trying to do here. My job is just to work on football, but we're definitely in the mix. I just think Nebraska, we should be at the very top, at the very front, because we have something really special in the state.
We'll get you out again. Tell Keith, man, I'll be in touch with him. But to talk about Rob Ulrich and what he's doing.
I got 5 minutes unless you got another segment.
Right,
I got five for you, brother.
The black shirts is one of the great traditions, but it hasn't been. You know, sometimes the fans will get frothed at the mouth because they may have had a game or two. You brought him in. There's a reason he's there. Do you feel like that will be more than just a game or two, flash in the pan against somebody, and this is going to be a guy that can flip the switch? I know you mentioned the first 2 years, Matt, and they were fantastic. But is that the kind of guy that can turn this into where a defense has that stinginess again?
Well, let me say first, you mentioned the fans. Like, that's what we have special in Nebraska.
No,
like, yeah. You don't get to have everyone come to all the games. You don't get to have 17,000 people at a basketball game. You don't get to have sellout College World Series without having people want to talk about it. So I want to make sure I love that about us. I love the fact that I can go speak at an event and I can have, a sweet old lady ask me about, hey, why aren't we doing this or why? That's what makes this cool. Football's my life. Other than my family and my faith, like, football's my life. I want to talk about football all the time. So I think that's really cool. But yeah, they want great defense, and we had great defense for 2 years. We took a step backwards last year, and while the numbers say it was good, it wasn't good enough. It was the worst red zone defense in the Big Ten. I think even maybe nationally, and we didn't take the ball away enough. We couldn't stop big explosive runs. It was like 14 runs that averaged 42 yards. It wasn't like every play. It was these big explosive gaping runs that, really weren't good enough. So we brought Rob in because I like the defensive style. I like the play style. I like the way that they played. I like what he did done in 1 year turnarounds at Idaho and at San Diego State. And, you have to have the players. We went out and got those players and kept those players. And you also have to have the commitment. I've always been committed to playing defense. So we practice the way we practice so we can play great defense. They're developing. But I'll tell you this. There's nothing I see about Rob that's gimmicky. There's nothing I see about his staff that isn't rooted in true core fundamentals. Phil Snow's still on our staff, right? Like, Phil sits there every day. Like, trust me, he would let you know if it wasn't being done right. Like he has no problem causing a stir. I think we're doing things the right way. And I think we'll be a defense. Like, they will grow and grow and grow as the year goes on. But this was a 2 to 3, 4 year move. I think he's a brilliant young coach that has a chance to come to a place that he reveres in Nebraska as a Midwestern guy, understands the history here, understands the positive burden. Like, man, you hold a lot of people's expectations and a lot of history on your shoulders. Man, we're at practice every day. Jay Foreman's at practice every day. Like, those guys played here, like what it means to play great defense. But he's also done a lot of new methods, man, being in the Mountain West, like zone read, RPO, trip, that's all the things you see. So it'll be a work in progress. We'll get better every week, but I think we have really high standards and high expectations.
Appreciate your time. I know you got a lot of things on your plate. Good to see you, buddy. Matt Rule, Craig Smoak, David Smoak, 365 Sports with Matt Rule, Nebraska football coach. Good to see him. We had some great talks when he was at Baylor back when he took over in 2017. Was it 17?
Yep.
Yeah, because Jim Grove was the interim in 2016, and they started out, it was a wreck, but he gave me 15 or 20 minutes week after week after week, and you could see that they were getting better, and eventually they had a pretty damn good team that lost to Georgia in the Sugar Bowl before he left for the NFL. That didn't work out. Now he's in Lincoln.
No, and a guy who I think it depends on who you ask, like from his previous stops on kind of how they feel. I think Temple and Baylor and some folks in both those areas still very appreciative of what he did and how he helped build them up. But also, there's those folks that feel like he left too soon or feel like he left with the job unfinished or feel like he left just at the moment when things were kind of turning a corner. I know that's how certain Baylor fans feel, but it ultimately, a lot of his hard work resulted in them winning the 2021 Big 12 championship and also the Sugar Bowl. Because without some of the players that he recruited, you are not seeing Terrell Bernard and Jalen Petrie and all of those types of guys that were big, impactful players on those. Tyquan Thornton, another one of Abram Smith.
Remember
Charlie
they flipped
Brewer.
him from a linebacker. Charlie Brewer was I just love watching him play.
I loved him. It was just really frustrating to watch a lot of the times.
Yeah.
It was just like he was good enough to be good, but also not consistently good enough to be good. Like
he would wait. How many times did
He
they
would wait
just
till
look
the-
like terrible, and then all of a sudden he'd lose? He'd go 2 drives in a row, 75
He
yards.
would suck for 3.5 quarters, and then down 17, he'd score 18 straight points, and
Yep.
they'd win the game. Like it was wild and very frustrating to watch. But yeah, Charlie Brewer was a fun guy to watch at times, and yeah, his teams played hard. And I know Nebraska fans don't give a damn about Baylor or Carolina or Temple or what's been done. I mean, we're at year 4 now.
Yep.
So year 3 last year was supposed to be the big turn it around and go win 9 or 10 games, and that wasn't in the cards. So they're kind of stuck at that 7th spot, and very curious to see if they can get over that hump, or if that's kind of like the new average or what. But certainly they are not being talked about a lot in the Big Ten big picture or the national big picture. And as we talked about with him, I think that's the way he likes it.
Yeah, well, just so much. They almost had ridiculous expectations. When Frost arrived, I thought they would be much better quickly. They had a good quarterback, too. Obviously, that was a disaster. They lose close games. They don't beat ranked teams. That's a bad, bad trend. Oh, by the way, Big 12 ADs have agreed to ban professionals from returning to Big 12 schools in all sports. And the ACC meeting today, and also they'll come out with their decision at some point later tonight or in the morning.
Well, I mean, that's no surprise. That's to be expected that everybody's going to follow suit. And I still have seen more than a couple of lawyers going, we're going to get them on the collusion. Like I saw a lot of that last night. And I just, again, will say I think that's a pretty easy argument. I'm not sure how court and all that works and proving yourself, but I don't think it takes the Big Ten and the SEC and the Big 12 and the ACC and all of them calling each other to say, hey, what do you think about this? I think we should ban it. Okay, if you ban it, we'll ban it. Like, I don't think any of that was going on. I think every league just went, oh, this is a disaster. We cannot allow this. So everybody went to their corners, got their advice from their lawyers, and got their votes from their proper channels and schools officials, and everybody's on the same page that, yeah, this isn't good for college football, and this is not a mess we want to further make messier. So let's address this, and everybody's addressing it this week because it's what's out there. I mean, it's these stories.
It is the story. There's no doubt about it. And we've had another week of it, of just the back and forth in the courtroom. There's still more to come, as Trey Wallace mentioned. If you missed that interview, he was great as always. We have some super chats.
This is saying it's pending FAR approval tonight, which I don't know what that stands for, but it sounds like it's just a matter of crossing the T's and dotting the I's. But that was from Pete Thamel. The Big 12 athletic directors have agreed to ban pros from returning to Big 12 schools in all sports.
Yeah, that's what I mentioned.
This is pending FAR approval, though. I don't know what FAR is. I don't know what I'm missing out there. But unanimous, and I think we're going to see that across the board. Yeah,
everyone's falling in line. So here are the super chats from today. And a reminder, Craig will be flying solo. Garrett may be a part of it, along with, of course, Rez every day. That's tomorrow. I'll be flying solo on Friday. I've got a high school game on tomorrow night to start the Texas high school football season is tomorrow night, and I've got a broadcast tomorrow night.
So first hour, we're going to do deep dive into the career of Bret Hart and his greatest matches.
Thousands of viewers.
And then second hour, Shawn Michaels and
former Universal City Randolph Rohawk, my alma mater, and also your, of course, Uncle Philip.
Yeah, no, I actually no. We'll be talking whatever is out there headlines wise, and have some guests, and just do more of the same, whatever that entails tomorrow, whatever the news brings, and whatever's of interest. So, I'll be here tomorrow.
Here are the super chats. Before we hit the wheel and say, as retired stockbroker, let's get this party started. Abso-freaking-lutely we did, and appreciate you being a part of it, retired, getting the party started, along with everybody else that was there from the start and throughout the show. One other super chat, I think. Bobby B, great Matt Rule interview. Looking forward to watching him coach, this time in Lincoln. Go Big Red. Thank you, Bobby B, big Baylor fan. Of course, Matt was here during a very difficult time, and it helped turn them around after a really tough 1-11 his first year in 2017. All right, thank you very much for the super chats. Always appreciate that. Let's spin the wheel.
Power 4 conference, and which one do you think has handled all of this change in the last 5 years the best? Well, on the latter, the team or the league, sometimes it feels like teams now, oddly enough. The league that's won 3 straight national titles, I think, has handled it the best, for sure. The Big Ten seems to be on top of things and quick to react and make strong decisions and decisions that have benefited them. So, yeah, I think it's pretty clearly the Big Ten that's handled it the best. I think the SEC is kind of trying to find their way a little bit, and I think the others are just they're starting off from like 6 meters behind and with one foot tied behind their back, and then there's the rest of the others that are like 100 yards behind, and they've got both feet tied behind their back. But, yeah, I think it's the Big Ten. As far as the describe each one, I mean, this is totally off the cuff. I'd say the SEC, prideful. Do you have a word for the SEC?
Bruised?
Yeah, I don't know. I just don't care about constantly dunking on them.
I'm not dunking on them. I'm looking at it from their perspective. Who are we to name the? Well, it's a good question. I think bruised. That's prideful, no doubt. I mean, they are still very proud of what they've done over the years, and what they still do today. It's just that they've fallen short with the Natty, and that's what made them who they were.
Well, and I think the Natty's less of a big deal. It's just as everybody points out when talking about the same thing, it's you haven't even had people playing for it. I mean, that's a bigger thing. I think that's more worrisome. Is at least Alabama plays for it last year and they lose, or Georgia a couple years ago, but that's not even happening. The last title was Georgia beating TCU like a drum.
Yeah.
So I asked this question back then. I know we got to go here, but I asked this question back then when that game was ongoing and it got as ugly as it got. And I remember asking the question online, and that was just random because what else was there to talk about during that game other than like safety issues on the field, to quote others. But would you have rather had a year like Baylor had the year prior? And I was comparing them too because they're rivals, where you had won the Big 12, you had won the Sugar Bowl, first time you'd ever done that. You finish off the year with this high note, best year in school history. Or would you have rather have still gone and had TCU's year where you don't win the Big 12 because you lost to K-State, you do beat Michigan,
and you're playing for the national championship.
And you played for the national championship.
That's a great question. We can bring that up tomorrow.
Because I do feel like as the years go along, people look at that, and the only thing they remember is TCU getting
Baylor was 12-2.
Yeah.
Best team they've ever had. Won the Big 12. Unbelievable finish with Oklahoma State, and then they beat Ole Miss in the Sugar Bowl. That's hard to beat. But when you play for the Natty and a spectacular wins that TCU had a long way, everyone remembers, 65-7. Don't remember the Michigan win as much as they should. But, man, they did lose to K-State in the Big 12 championship game. Yeah.
So they won like the
That's
Fiesta
a great
Bowl,
question. Bring that up tomorrow.
Yeah, I might do that. As far as the ACC, what's your word for them?
Simmering.
Simmering's a good word.
Simmering because, they're making better money than the Big 12. They have more logos, and is Miami about to be on this run with the Cristobal? I don't know, but you know what? They were pretty good last year.
Yeah, I feel like the word I would use is unstable because of the uncertainty that's around the corner. But I don't want to make everything about them necessarily about realignment possibilities because that's all that some people talk about with the ACC, even if it's not even close to fruition or might not even happen at all. So ACC, I mean, simmering's a good word. We'll just all settle on one word together. All right, Big Ten. I mean, the word right now, winning, champions. Yeah, best of the best, I think, what they've done.
I mean, kind of this is more, they got their chest out, man. They feel really good, and they should about themselves. But I just say championship. The Alpha. They're the Alpha Conference right now.
And then Big 12. Uncertainty, maybe that's the better word for the ACC. I don't know, but if we're talking off the field, that would maybe be the better word for the ACC. Not so much the Big 12 because I think they're at the mercy of a lot of things. Wanting is a word I think of because
this is
so
going to
many
sound
fans,
wrong.
so many fans want more.
Yeah, I know.
And so wanting is a word that
this
comes
is
to mind.
not to mean what it says or what the word actually means, but desperate. I mean that not because of like, my God, they're not going to wake up and have a conference tomorrow, but they need a run. And I think it's the timing of it too, not just to have a team that's in the mix with a Texas Tech or BYU or whatever. They need someone to freaking win some games and get at least a couple of rounds into the playoffs.
Yeah, they're another Tech first-round exit or two from like just completely being pushed off completely to the side.
And it's not fair, but
No.
then they're going to look like, okay, well, they're no different
James
as far as
Madison.
exactly the teams out of the G6, because Miami made the run. They did. And it was not just, 4 years ago when Florida State was on the verge of being in the playoffs, and then an unfortunate situation. So they've kind of represented themselves a lot better. Texas was in the quarterfinals. Was it? No, that was the first year in the SEC,
They were in the SEC.
when they beat Arizona State. Yep. Okay.
Yeah, so I'd say wanting or desperate to some degree. If you had more than
And
one word,
desperate,
it would be
yeah.
Need to win. Need to win. That would be the Big 12's motto.
Get it done. Get it done. All right, thank you to everybody who's been part of the chat, but many others that are watching us either on my Twitter feed or YouTube that watch the show and just enjoy it. We appreciate you. Rez, Michelangelo Flores, Garrett Ross, thank you, our great sponsors. Craig, I'll see you Friday. No, I won't. I may not see you until Monday, depending on the schedules and stuff. Maybe Saturday. I don't know. But we appreciate you. This was the helmet that Rule sent me when he went to Nebraska that signed to me and also to the show. Good night, 365 Sports.